Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Izuku becomes the cybernetically augmented hero, Deku x Mina, Part 2. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic, Delusional777, link is in the description. Also subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's begin the video. It was the second day for the students of the esteemed high school, and Izuku was filled to the brim with anticipation. The mechanical teen had spent most of his night going over his memory database, analyzing his classmates' various quirks, and theorizing their potential applications. Mina took her shoes off, and used her acid to ice skate in the 50-meter dash. Genius! That Momo girl created more than just a motorcycle, but nothing as complex or useful. Her quirk probably takes a lot out of her. That stocky guy, Sato, is way stronger than he should be, and didn't seem to tire out either. He did look kinda dull though. Maybe his quirk is some kind of trade-off. There was a girl there who was invisible. It must be a mutation type since she never turned it off. Close quarters combat against her must be a pain, even if she was on the lower end of the scoreboard. How did she even destroy the robots? Maybe there's a button on them that turns them off. I wonder if I could see her with my thermal sight. Wait, that wouldn't be rude, would it? I have to ask Ochako Infinity Girl Uraraka about her quirk. I don't think it's super strength, but the results speak for themselves. When Izuku arrived at the homeroom of 1A, he was immediately bombarded with noise. Dude, the way you used your crystal armor to stare down that giant robot was manly as hell. We should be tank buddies, loudly exclaimed a red-headed boy with spiky hair. You have enough guy friends, Kirishima. He's gonna be my stealth buddy. The way he turned invisible and sliced at those robots was so cool, ironically screamed the invisible girl with the stealth quirk. Now leave EM, Hagakure, said the stocky, thick-lipped Sato, who captured Izuku in an almost bloodthirsty gaze, but gave off a benevolent smile immediately after. Midoriya, dude, you're really strong. You should join Shoji. And I for some friendly arm wrestling. He gestured to the tall, six-armed, masked teen, who only gave a simple nod of affirmation. Ojiro, the tailed martial artist, offered a friendly nod, and spoke in a cool, composed tone. Midoriya, despite your mediocre flexibility, your use of reflexes against multiple opponents is astonishing. We should train together sometime. Katsuki Bakugo decided it was his turn to speak. None of you extras should be thinking about making friends with my training partner. He spends his time practicing with me because I'm the best, and because he trains with me, he's the second best. So none of you future dropouts even think about wasting his time. Unfortunately, this was not middle school. Geez, why are you so mean to everyone? Asked the Infinity Girl, Uraraka. Yeah, your personality is like someone tossed sewage, rotten fish, and ants into a blender, and turned it on high, viciously uttered a girl with purple hair and odd ear extensions. Even All Might, with due respect to his considerable power, knows how to cooperate with his fellows when the situation demands it. I doubt anyone would want to be on patrol with you, honestly, remarked Ida. Izuku, of course, was bewildered, and caught off guard by the massive influx of attention and general chaos. They were talking about the entrance exam, as if they were there, but only 4 people in the room knew what happened, and only himself knew the entire story. Ida, and the blonde French guy, Ioma, wouldn't have possibly. Mina, the aforementioned girl, had been giving a sly smile, bordering a smirk, towards Izuku the whole time. Naturally, she would have been the one to regale the class of his heroics. She must have shown them a video that the judges took of his progress during the exam, as they do for every contestant who attempts to enter Yuri. He returned a weak, exhausted smile, and rolled his eyes, nearly walking to his seat behind Kaken before realizing something important. I never said thank you for her medical advice while I was hospitalized. My recovery might have been more complicated if she didn't head over and open those blinds fully to let in sunlight and restore my energy reserves. I was out for an entire day, as well, but she was there when I woke up. She wasn't there the entire time, was she? Hey, is Shido-kun? Yes, Suzuka? I just wanted to say thanks for telling that old lady about my quirk. Being exposed to sunlight really helped me get my energy back, and I didn't even realize just how thoughtful that was of you to do in the moment. So thank you. Mina just stared at him, mouth slightly agape. Izuku Midoriya, the augmented hero, who had stared down a giant killer robot and nearly died just to save her, was thanking her for simply giving the old lady, who was actually the hero recovery girl, a tip about his quirk. He didn't come expecting a thank you. He was here to give thanks. What the hell? Following basic emotion, Mina stood up and responded with a firm hug. Izuku's face reddened, and the class was probably staring at them, but to hell with it. He needed to know what his simple, humble gesture meant to her. You're an ideal hero, Izuku. Don't ever change. Oh, thanks, Ash. Mina, we're best friends now, so you call me Mina. Sure thing, Mina. Mina kept her hold on the boy and examined his face. Aside from his eyes and those thinly etched, nearly unnoticeable lines that ran across his face, he really did look plain. His reddened blush at her close contact brought out his freckles in an aesthetically polished way, as if his face was crafted to be as simple and pleasing as possible. They both smiled at each other, before realizing that the class was quiet. Not as quiet as when Aizawa was in the room, but quiet nonetheless. They had an audience. Mina let the poor boy go, making it a point to keep her smile up, now tinged with hues of lilac and violet, until he couldn't see her face. Neither of them dared look at anyone, as they returned to their seats, Izuku flat out covering his uncomfortably warm face with his cool hands. As it turned out, despite being the top-tier hero school in Japan, Yu was still more of a school than anything else. They had ordinary classes, with extraordinary teachers. English was taught by Present Mike, the voice hero, who was unsurprisingly fluent in every sense of the word. Modern art history was taught by the R-rated hero Midnight, which made for some very personal and uneasy discussion about the students' opinions. Cementos taught literature, Ectoplasm taught mathematics, and Izuku nearly fainted upon seeing every single one of them. Even lunch was occupied by the hero Lunch Rush, who served incredibly delicious food at speeds unsurpassed. Izuku sat at a lunch table with his close friends Ida and Mina with their close friends Ochako and Hagakure respectively. Kaken was also there, offering scowls to anyone who looked at him. To Izuku, the second day at Yuihai was one of the best in his life, but he couldn't have possibly been prepared for what awaited him in his final class. Oh my god, it's All Might! Coming through the door like a hero, the titanic symbol of peace dashed through the door, in the precise fashion he claimed to. Gasps emanating from the students in the classroom paired alongside excited muttering. All Might took dramatic, slow steps towards the front of the classroom, giving the students time to take the situation in. He really is a teacher. That's his Silver Age costume, such an iconic style. All Might, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I am All Might, and I teach the hero basic training. In this class, you will discover what it means to be a hero. Let's get into it. Today you will learn combat training. Hell yeah, a brash, aggressive voice lashed out to all, belonging to one class Firecracker Katsuki Bakugo. First off, you will receive these. Several panels were pulled from the wall, each with a number corresponding to the students. Your hero costumes, created based off of your quirk registrations and personal requests sent in before school began. Change into these, and join me in Ground Beta, young students. At Ground Beta, Izuku saw many different costumes, knights in shining armor, a bloodthirsty bomber, and far more skin than he was expecting from the girl who could create virtually anything. The rich variety in costumes reminded him how different they all were, despite their shared goal of becoming heroes. What struck him the most, however, was the literally frosty aura flowing off a certain boy with a seemingly thick layer of ice covering half his body, his eye encased in some kind of goggle beneath the eye, making it appear a robotic glowing red. Wow, and I thought that bird guy was edgy, although I guess I can't really judge him myself. Izuku's costume request was designed to be practical, but still somewhat recognizable. A pair of simple black combat boots, with minor modifications designed to make his footsteps less prominent. Despite not being as heavy as a tank, Izuku was still heavier than the average adult male, and his invisibility would not be as useful if enemies could hear him coming. Black cargo pants, with additional pouches strapped to the sides to carry basic medical equipment, and other small miscellaneous gear he may pick up in the field. He may not have had any legitimate medical experience, but that has not stopped him from photographically memorizing every single video and guidebook he could on the subject, in the hopes that it would one day be useful. His chest was covered by a custom lightweight vest, its intricate weaving encompassing his entire torso. Its purpose was to offer basic protection from blunt force trauma, while remaining light enough to not negate the stealth modifications to his boots. His arms and face were left completely exposed, to complete his iconic look. As the #1 augmented hero, he had thought about putting on some shades to look like a spy or agent of some sort, but that just seemed over the top. He hadn't been expecting his costume to look so dark and military. Hopefully nobody would tease him for it. Oh my god, Izuku. God damn it. You look like a badass. Suspense. Mina was there, giving her best smile to her best friend, with Ida and the red-haired boy, Kirishima, in tow. Midoriya-kun, I admire the practicality of your costume. Having space to carry gear into the field is obvious evidence of your tactical prowess. Dude, your costume is manly as hell. You should totally lose the vest though, and grace those you rescued with some rockin' robo abs. Izuku reddened again for what was the 7th time that day before responding. Well, actually my chest isn't as augmented as my arms and legs are, so it's actually a weaker point for me, so the vest really helps. Kirishima just kept up his smile and nodded, while Mina relieved the tension in her own Mina way. Those costume designers are really good. If they made someone as dorky looking as you look cool. The group laughed at her teasing, even Ida suppressing a grin. All Might smiled even brighter at the conversation he may have accidentally eavesdropped on, taking no shame in doing so. He remembered his first encounter with the boy, willing to go through the network of cleaning up a villain, not afraid to do an unglamorous job just to make it even slightly easier for the number one hero. A humbleness that evidenced his desire to help others, no ulterior motive at place, and it seemed to have resulted in him forming a friendship with young Ishido. Whenever she interacted with young Midoriya, he always seemed to have a smile on his face. Their spirits shined the most bright amongst their classmates. That's right, young man, always a smile. You will serve as an inspiration to those who follow you, and show those you face that you are unyielding. Seeing that all students are accounted for, all might explain the combat exercise. Each student was placed in a group of 2, and each group would be engaged in combat against another group in an indoor building, taking on the roles of infiltrating the building as heroes, or defending a nuclear weapon as villains, the goal being to familiarize the students with quirk usage in a combative setting, as well as take into account their enemies' quirks. The first group consisted of Izuku and Mina, much to their delightment, while the heroes in the exercise were Todoroki, the icy student with the scar, and Bakugo. Villain team, you have 15 minutes to familiarize yourself with the building, and the hero team will be using that time to plan their infiltration. The hero's goal is to capture the weapon by touching it, and the villain's goal is to hold them off until the timer runs out. Both teams may also incapacitate each other via capture tape to achieve victory. Begin preparation phase. So this is it, huh? Mina knocked on the nuclear weapon a few times. A crinkle, and a few pops reverberated off the enclosed walls. Pretty realistic for paper, Izu? Yes, Mina? You got a plan or something? Cause I have no idea how I'm gonna beat Bakugo. I looked at his entrance exam video after looking at yours, and he's something, isn't he? Don't worry, Mina. I can hold him off. Who I'm worried about is Todoroki. I know he can create ice, and he is also a recommended student, so he's probably very capable. If he's really strong, he could freeze us in place the moment he sees us. He might also make I don't know ice stairs up to one of the windows and get in without me hearing. Mina burst out in hysterical laughter, breaking Izuku's concentration, and spreading red across his face when he realized she was laughing at him. Ice stairs, Izuku? God, you are too much sometimes. It's a very real possibility. He might do it. Mina continued her onslaught of embarrassment towards her best friend, before finally catching her breath. Izu, you're a riot. I think I got it. Huh, I have a plan. Katsuki Bakugo and Shoto Todoroki were outside the building, looking over the schematics of the indoor area. Not a single word had been exchanged since they met up. Bakugo decided to make something crystal clear. Ice brain, listen up. Todoroki chose not to dignify him with a response. Deku, the damn robot kid in black? He's mine. Your ice powers won't be enough to hold him, and he's fast enough to put you down. I'm the only one who can beat him, understand? Me, yes. You, no. You can freeze the pink bitch all you want. Just stay out of my way or we lose. The response was cold and monotone. You seem to hold him in high regard, yet you call him useless. Katsuki did not like that. It's none of your fucking business why I call him that. All Might spoke up on their communication devices, speaking to the hero team, as well as the villain team. 1 minute until the hero team begins their infiltration. Prepare yourselves, students. The hero team shifted, one full of fire, and ready to affirm his dominance over his rival and training partner, the other's veins filled with ice, ready to freeze everything inside and touch a fake weapon. Oh, and one more thing. Todoroki looked at his partner, the voice composed and collected compared to his previous angry tone. He can turn invisible. Izuku smiled to himself. The plan was simple, but effective. Using his invisibility and enhanced hearing, he would get an early attack on Todoroki, the unknown factor of their enemies, and use the capture tape to end the fight before it began. With him out of the way, Katsuki would engage him immediately, to which he would hold him off as long as he could with his crystalline armor. He would lead him around a corner, and Mina would use her acid to destroy those gauntlets of his from a safe distance. If Izuku knew Kaken, and he very much believed he did, those grenade-shaped pieces of armor around his arms were not armor, but some kind of offensive tool instead. With the gauntlets destroyed, it would be a simple 2v1 fight against the hero. What Izuku did not consider is that while planning is indispensable, plans themselves are worthless. Izuku and Mina creep down the stairs and dimly lit hallways, using Izuku's memory, eyesight, and hearing to guide them down, and choose an appropriate ambush point. He figured Kaken would be making some kind of noise, sprinting to defeat him as soon as possible, but he heard only soft footsteps. One pair of soft footsteps, not two. He signaled for Mina to stay behind. Good luck, Izu. Thanks, be ready for Bakugo. Izuku felt a chill in the air, and a noticeable increase in sound. They were very close. Activating his thermal vision, he looked through a corner, into the hallway. Two bodies were walking, one significantly colder than the other. That must be Todoroki, his quirk naturally giving him a lower body temperature. But how is Kaken being so quiet? He is the least stealthy person I've ever known. Something is wrong here, I see two, but only hear one. Activating his invisibility cloak, Izuku crept around the corner and pressed up against the wall, but Kaken was nowhere to be seen. Focus on Izuku, he's right there. The cold intensified as Todoroki approached him, and Izuku wondered just how cold the human body could take before he finally passed him in the narrow hallway, his back turned to a smiling, unseen Izuku. All he had to do was wrap the capture tape around his hands, and he wouldn't have even been able to react. "You're pretty warm, you know," commented the unsurprised ice user. Todoroki immediately lashed his right hand towards Izuku, the close range providing no means of rebuttal for the augmented hero in training. He became completely encased in ice. Heavy footsteps and a guttural cry were heard from a few floors down. "DKU, I'm gonna make your sorry ass regret ever surprise my score. Get away from him. Freezer burn." "Sure thing." Todoroki applied a few more layers of ice to Izuku to hold him steady, before leaving him behind and putting up an ice wall between them. While his entrapment was taking place, Izuku noticed a very interesting detail. Only the right side of his body is cold. The left side is very warm. Even with that ice suit, he looked like two people while I was using my thermals. There must be more to his quirk than just ice. Once Todoroki's footsteps became little more than vibrations, Izuku strained his artificial muscle and broke through the thick tomb of ice he was encased in, sending shards of frozen water flying everywhere. He spoke to Mina using his communication device given to everyone by All Might. "Mina, Todoroki got past me and is heading for the weapon. I gotta deal with Kaken, so retreat and go for plan B instead. Just slow him down as much as you can." "Oh damn, Izu, anything I should know?" Don't let him see you." "Got it." Izuku delivered a heavy punch to the ice wall, destroying it. However, it appeared there was no time to follow, as a certain someone had caught up. He activated his crystalline armor just in time to take a brutal explosion to the side of his head. Even with the armor, his vision momentarily slurred and lagged from the fierce blow. He turned his attention to Kaken, taking in his costume and bloodlust expression. Everything about him screamed violence. In this case, he was seeking it out. "Alright, Deku, let's fucking do this." Izuku narrowed his gaze, every literal fiber of his being swarmed in determination. "No holding back, Kaken, let's go." Combat assessment complete. Threat high. Kaken prefers brute force over technique, but is capable of both to defeat users. Explosion quirk provides massive offensive potential and mobility. Is aware of your preferred combat techniques from various past training sessions. Vulnerable to arm blades, but users will not employ lethal tactics. Capable of gradually breaking through crystalline armor. Will fire explosions indiscriminately if invisibility cloak is used. Activation of pheromone emitter will cause momentary hesitation or enrage him. Recommended course of action: retreat and assist Mina against Todoroki. Should I run away? Something about that did not sit right with Izuku. They were training to be heroes, weren't they? Heroes beat the villains. Or in this case, villains beat the heroes. He remembered All Might, his overwhelming tsunami of power being able to defeat a villain that Izuku barely fought back against, without even technically touching him. It was the hurricane force winds that came from the sheer force of his punch that put that villain in prison. All Might was the epitome of power, and he wants to be just like him. So why was his basic instinct to run away. He's fought him before, even won a few times. All Might himself said that he could be the new number one, so why? All Might. Their confrontation on the rooftop nearly a year ago played back, and Izuku Midoriya remembered All Might in a way very few could, his true form sending shivers down his spine. His hollow face, sickly thin frame, skeletal arms, and weakening voice, his own blood leaking from his mouth because he was dying, and nothing could save him. His injury from years before his killing him. Yet All Might still fought on. Not because there were villains to be fought, but because there were people who needed help. Because someone needed to do the unglamorous network of heroism. Because heroism is not about fighting villains. It's about what serves society the most. And right now, it was that weapon. Izuku focused intently, Kaken coming at him with an explosion-propelled kick. But he saw right through it. Because just as his friend knew him, he knew his friend. He never opens with a kick. Switching to a frenzied haymaker at the last second, Kaken put all his force into his right arm, only to have it ducked under, and receive an almost cruel punch to the gut, nearly vomiting from its impact. The punch, however, was not nearly as cruel as what happened next. Izuku pulled something from a pouch on his leg, and sounds of shattered glass were heard, along with the dripping liquid. "I'm sorry, Kaken, but this isn't our training. I can't just fight you because you're here." A real hero focused on the objective. Deku smacked him across the face, gripping his brow to get the vile liquid in his eyes. "And Jesus fuck did that burn. An insurance policy from the pink bitch. Fucking Deku. That was fine though, perfectly fine. He had an insurance policy of his own." He still heard his footsteps. He couldn't possibly be far. Extending his arm in Deku's direction, Bakugo rested his fingers on the pin of the grenade-shaped gauntlet. Young Bakugo, I know you are angry, but a hero cannot let their emotions cause harm to innocents. If you pull that pin, the building is at risk of collapse. It will not even be a confirmed strike. You cannot see your enemy. That weapon is simply not suitable for indoor use. Furious silence was all that remained, as Izuku Midoriya rushed up the stairs, not just to defeat an opponent or just to help a friend, but to follow the objective and stop Todoroki from touching that bomb. Well, shit. Mina had done all she could think of to slow the immensely powerful ice user Todoroki. He has flash frozen the surrounding area a few times, but her reflexes and acrobatic ability allowed her to evade the sudden blitzkriegs of cold. She threw acid at him. As he rounded a corner, he reacted crazy fast and threw up an ice wall. She covers the floor in acid to slow him down. Dude makes an ice bridge over the acid and keeps on moving. She uses her acid skate technique to ambush him and gets a good punch in. He recovers immediately and freezes the entire hallway at once, her with it. An ice bridge. Not ice stairs. An ice bridge. Izu, I'm gonna kick your ass if I don't freeze to death first. How is this guy so powerful? If that stuff melted it'd be a literal ocean. There's only one thing left to do now, and I'm not exactly proud of it. Your acid can't get through the ice fast enough for you to stop me, and your partner has been taken care of by Bakugo. Tell me where the weapon is so your recovery isn't as problematic. Attempted by the cold, monotone hero. That's very courteous of you, oh great hero. You must be pretty popular with the ladies, huh? So dark and brooding. Why, I'm sure there isn't a single soul who wouldn't consider you a catch. How about instead of all this bomb business you and dash? Mina was, in her own opinion, rudely interrupted by a severe increase of cold, as the hero placed his hand on her forehead, nearly knocking her unconscious from the low temperature. I don't have time for games. Tell me where it is, or I will put you to sleep and find it myself. Okay, I'll tell you. Man dude, you really gotta chill. Wait, it's a joke. Okay. The bomb is... Mina let out an overdramatic sigh. The bomb is in room C. Raven. Todoroki paused, attempting to remember such a room on the blueprint, to no avail. C. Raven? Craven? I'm sorry Todoroki, but omi wa mao shinderu. Craven these nuts, ice boy. Mina spit out, as much as she could at the last few words, the acidic saliva she'd been discreetly cultivating burning the inside of her mouth, but it was so worth it. The acid hit Todoroki directly in his face, getting in his eyes, as well, causing the stoic ice-cold enemy to lose his composure and be momentarily blinded. As if fate itself was on her side, there came a familiar set of heavy footsteps rushing up the stairs, sprinting down various hallways, and her partner in crime Izuku Midoriya rushed into the room. Izu, he's blind, he reacted immediately, grabbing Todoroki's left arm and flipping him over his shoulder, quickly taking out the capture tape and tying up his hands. Shoto Todoroki has been incapacitated by the villain team. Todoroki stiffened momentarily upon realization of defeat, then went limp on the floor, keeping his face a forced monotone expression. He couldn't help but feel more shocked than anything else. Every battle so far that wasn't against him has been beatable, most of them barely taking any effort. Ashido had a higher willpower than he had expected, and Izuku threw him around like it was nothing. Bakugo must have failed then. But how? They were of similar speeds, yet it seemed Midoriya had plenty of time to rush up the building and defeat him. However, the exercise was not over, meaning Bakugo was untied and would be here soon. Mina, are you alright? How long have you been in there? Can you feel your toes? Why yes Izu, I can feel my toes. Thanks for the concern. But could you maybe? Maybe what? Said the incredibly dense boy, who forgot he broke out of an ice tomb minutes prior. Izu, for the love of DKU. And then there were four. Bakugo turned a corner and assessed the poor situation. His face was red and blotchy, and his eyes were nearly squinted shut from the irritant, but they were open enough. He looked ready to kill, as always. Ice brain taken out, raccoon eyes 2.0 frozen, and fucking Deku ripe as rain. God, this shit in my eyes stings. Must have been some weak shit if I still have eyes though. Didn't fuck up his hand at all. Izuku assumed a combat stance, his eyes open, arms up, feet spread apart, and center of gravity lowered. He placed himself in front of Mina and walked steadily towards his opponent. In the dimly lit hallway, eyes glowing gold surrounded by a void, arms a mixture of silver and black. Some would consider this sight menacing, but not Kaken. How much time is left? 4:37. Okay, that's doable. The two boys kept up the glaring contest until Izuku took the initiative, dashing forward and swinging his fist towards Bakugo's chest, at a force just below the threshold of breaking ribs. It should completely stun him, allowing for a capture tape takedown. Or it would have, if Izuku had actual experience being on the offensive with his longtime rival. He telegraphed his intentions so clearly. Even with his speed, the explosive teen was able to react perfectly, sidestepping the blow and responding with a detonating smack that would have made his mother proud. The augmented hero in training flew across the hallway, brutally flopping down the set of stairs on the other side. While he was flying, however, he stuck his arm out in what he hoped was the right direction, and he was right. His metallic limb hit Mina's eyes tomb hard enough to weaken its structural integrity, giving her acid enough leeway against the prison. They slid out from her bounds, limbs numb, and uncalibrated to their newfound freedom, and nearly collapsed. She looked up at Bakugo, his face twisted into a sadistic grin that expressed his intentions perfectly. He wasn't like Todoroki, who was icy, and just business. This was a very real human with overflowing emotions of rage and bloodlust, who would legitimately delight in hurting people, whether it was a villain or a rival. Right now, she felt like prey. His murderous gaze sent shivers down her spine. How the hell had Izuku fought this thing, every time, and come back for more? The answer would elude her for today. Bakugo raised both his hands towards her, popping and crackling sounds from his quirk echoing down the hallway, until an almost invasive calmness invaded their minds. The explosion quirk user hesitated, feeling so much less than he had been feeling before. His normal tsunami of emotions faded to a mere trickle, but he knew exactly who was to blame. Move! Izuku's voice rang out from the other side of the hallway, and Mina followed the request. No, the warning, as if her life depended on it. She willed her numb legs to life, and narrowly dodged the speeding human bullet that was Izuku Midoriya, before hitting the floor behind Bakugo, as he let loose at his opponent. You're gonna have to do better than shitty-ass pheromones to beat me, DKU. Defend against this. Izuku activated his crystalline armor, its near-invincible structure enveloping his entire body, as all hell broke loose. Bakugo was putting everything he had into a series of channeled, continuous explosions from both his hands, utilizing the confined hallway to ensure his offensive either blew Deku away so he could finish off Pink Bitch, or to prevent that stupid robo-nerd from getting any closer. God fucking damn it. Unfortunately, Deku wasn't blown away. That stupid-ass armor of his was withstanding the storm, and he was getting closer. Slowly, step by step, with his arms raised in front of his face, he was advancing. Bakugo remembered when he was quirkless, how he was just a pebble on the road, waiting to be kicked away. Now he was a fucking mountain, his arms strained, and he could feel the muscle fibers coming apart. His quirk was nearing its limit, as well, yet Deku stopped, 4 feet away, and he just fucking stopped. He can't move further anymore. Feeling victory within his grasp, Katsuki Bakugo let out a primal roar, and redoubled his efforts, pushing through the pain, and embracing his second wind. Izuku stayed in place, using every ounce of artificial muscle and natural human spirit to not be blown away. The stalemate continued between the two, a battle of pure will against will, and it seemed Deku's armor was unraveling at the seams. Just a few more seconds of agony, and victory would be his. While the two rivals were testing their wills against each other, Mina was on the floor, covering her ears, and inching away from the middle of the now unbearably bright hallway. Bakugo's explosions created a tremendous force, heat, and noise that, even though she was behind him, still made every instinct in Mina's body command her to just get the hell away. But she knew Izuku was there, withstanding the point-blank eruption. His inky black silhouette was barely visible in the oppressive brightness, and he had stopped moving. It probably took everything in him just to stay in place, and she wasn't doing anything. It was just like when he faced the zero-pointer. I won't let this happen again. I can't keep relying on him to save me from robots or ice dudes. We both deserve better than that. I am the pro-hero alien queen, and I will save you, Izuku. Struck by a burst of adrenaline, she got up, uncovered her ears, and immediately felt a ringing pain, but ignored it in favor of doing something she secretly really wanted to do, punching Katsuki Bakugo in the head, as hard as she possibly could. His explosion ceased, as he swayed side to side, before hitting the ground with a forceful thud. He was unconscious, and looked quite angry about it too. Izuku, on the other hand, could only wish he was unconscious. He nearly collapsed, leaning on the wall to support him, his breathing rapid and forced. And Mina the tape. She brought out the capture tape, and wrapped it around Bakugo's his hands. The gloves that once encased his hands were gone, unable to withstand the immense force of his rapid explosions. His hands were, if she put it politely, fucked up. The skin of his palms wasn't there, and his knuckles looked as if they were forcefully stretched away from his wrists. The back of his hands were burned, and gave off a putrid smell that none of the remaining three wanted to think about. Gross. Oh God, I think I touched. When his hands were tied, all might formally announce their victory. Katsuki Bakugo has been incapacitated. The villain team prevails over justice today. Mina. Izuku raised his head, a tired, pained, but genuine smile on his face. We did it. Once Bakugo was sent to the infirmary, and Mina, Izuku, and Todoroki made it back to the viewing room, All Might started his analysis and legitimate teaching to the students. This was a very good matchup, and yielded excellent results by all. Todoroki's observational skills and quirk mastery put a wrench in the villain's plans in the beginning. Bakugo's aggression and combat prowess was enough to almost win the match. Ashido's tactical usage of her quirk was excellent at stalling for time. Midoriya's judgment, as well as endurance, kept him in the game despite overwhelming odds. So, my students, who do you believe was the MVP of the match? A swarm of opinions, loud and quiet, but mostly loud, invaded the pro hero's ears. One name in particular stood out though, and he couldn't say he was surprised. Dude, the way Midoriya just walked towards the explosions was the manliest thing I've ever seen. It's him for sure. Midoriya's tactical prowess knows no bounds. Using Ashido's acid to escape from Bakugo was an excellent decision. That shoulder throw on Todoroki was perfectly executed. Todoroki remained silent, displaying a stoic indifference to Midoriya's praise. A worthy guess, but you are incorrect. The MVP of the match is Mina Ashido. Anyone care to tell me why? Momo Yororozu spoke up, her tone dignified and alert. Ashido is the MVP because she stayed most true to the objective of the game, keeping the heroes away from the nuclear weapon. She provided her acid to Midoriya to even his odds, and when his plan failed, she stuck back and slowed down Todoroki considerably, buying Midoriya time to retreat and engage Todoroki himself. Even when she was ultimately defeated by Todoroki, she resisted his interrogation, as well as assisting in a takedown by Midoriya in her own fashion. This allowed them to engage Bakugo in a 2v1 scenario, which won them the game, as he could not hold them both back at once. For a moment there was a stunned silence at the detailed analysis that seemingly came off the top of her head, but gave way mutual agreement. All Might was impressed, as expected from a recommended student. That is precisely correct, Yororozu. Good analysis. Everyone in this exercise gave it their all, and that gives me hope for the future. I expected similar amounts of willpower from the rest of you, so do not disappoint. Up next, the heroes Ida and Hagakure versus the villains Siro and Ioma. As the requested students headed to their assigned buildings, Todoroki walked up to Mina and Izuku. Okay, so then he told him I am Katsuki Bakugo, and I'm gonna be the best goddamn hero in the entire world. And don't you forget it. And man, that 5-year-old just started bawling his eyes out, and since I was with him at the time, we both got kicked out and banned from. They both stopped talking and laughing, even their smiles faded as they saw him approach. I guess I just have that effect on people. Hey Todoroki. Mina spoke first, her expression less discomfort, more curiosity. Izuku looked cautious though, as if he sensed he was here for retribution. His posture turned rigid, and his eyes were focused intently. In truth, it worried him. So far, Midoriya has shown traits of indecisiveness, social inexperience, and fidgety behavior. His normal self did a complete 180 in combat, but they were not in combat. He felt threatened, and was not hiding it. Hello Ashido-san. I just wanted to know if your acid will leave scars. Mina paused, before cautiously laughing at the sensible question. No, it won't scar you Todoroki. It'll be gone by tomorrow. It burns, yeah, but it's closer to pepper spray than it is to my signature melt your flesh acid. I see, thank you. Before he could leave, however, Izuku's voice called out to him. Hey Todoroki, wait up. I'll be back, Mina. Mina narrowed her eyes. Her robo-boy Izuku Midoriya leaving her to talk to Todoroki? That was odd at best. Maybe he wanted to talk about the match? Is my shy boy Isa gonna make a new friend? So brave, PFT. What are you up to talking to Toto? 1000 yen says he's gonna ask about his quirk. Midori-san? Hey Todoroki-san, don't, take this in a weird way or anything, but I'm really interested in your quirk. See, I know you can make ice, but you only seem to launch it from your right side. Silence. Midoriya fidgeted a little. His leftover confidence from the training exercise was beginning to wear off. And my quirk, augmentation, allows my eyes to have a thermal vision mode. I use them to spot you through a corner, and with the thermals ISA. You saw the temperature difference between my left and right sides. Yes I did, Todoroki sighed. Truth be told, he was never particularly good at socializing with others. Sometimes he wondered if things would have been different if his father wasn't breathing down his neck 24/7, or if he still would have been inept. This was a very personal subject Midoriya was approaching, yet he seemed genuine. My quirk is called half cold half hot. It allows me to create ice from my right side and fire from my left. I don't use the fire. It is my father's quirk, and I am not on good terms with him. That's all there is to it. Midoriya's face lit up like a Christmas tree. He started mumbling incoherently about the quirk, its potential uses, strengths, drawbacks, cool combos, and too much too fast to keep track of. Is social energy a complete contrast to what he was showing before? Todoroki glanced at Ashido. So that's how they get along. Despite the eyes and the curly hair, they are opposites initially, but get him even slightly interested. Or you could cauterize a wound in an emergency, if freezing it left too much risk for frostbite. Midoriya-san. Oh, I'm sorry Todoroki. I was rambling. It is alright, I appreciate the insight. I will be going now. Sure. Once Todoroki left, Mina playfully ruffled her friend's hair, half annoying him, but half making him feel nice. It felt nice. Weird. So Izu, what did you guys talk about? Was it boy stuff? You can tell me about that too, you know. No, it wasn't boy stuff. I just asked about his quirk. Fucking kayated. That sounds more like the nerd I know. Let's watch the next match and see how cool everyone is. I'd love to, but explosion boy? Sigh. I understand. I can come with you if you want. Did you just say Sigh? No, I should really visit him alone. He hates losing, and he will probably be mad. I'll help him cool off. Okay. See ya later, dude. Later, Mina. Izuku Midoriya excused himself from class with All Might's permission and made his way to the school infirmary. Even during classes, the hallways of Yui were peppered with noise from the surrounding classrooms. The booming voices of pro heroes, the groans or excitable screeches of students, and juicy gossip between the staff left a white noise full of interesting things to know, if one only listened. Izuku found himself trying to block out the noise on his walk, preferring the silence that was so rare and hard to find in his city. You lost, Sonny? Asked a familiar short old lady in a white coat. Oh, it's you. I remember you from after the entrance exam. HMPF, I'm just me, huh? Kids these days only know those like All Might and Endeavor, real powerhouses. There are other ways to be a hero, you know. Izuku looked at the short woman's name tag, Chio Shizenji. Where has he heard that before? Individual profile, Chio Shizenji, aka Pro Hero, Recovery Girl. Her quirk, Heal, allows her to. Oh my god, you're Recovery Girl, the youthful heroine. I watched all of your instructional videos to better understand how to help people. I'm sorry I didn't recognize you. The old nurse chuckled at the boy's newfound enthusiasm. At least she still had some fans nowadays. Ha! Those videos are from decades ago, kid. I don't blame you for not recognizing me. Every video you say? I'm gonna test that later. I assume you're going somewhere? Of course. I wanted to check on my friend catcher, Katsuki Bakugo. The kid who overdid it with his quirk. I'm surprised his arm didn't break from that. He's doing fine. A little out of it right now, as I had to put him to sleep, angry kid. Heh, that sounds like him alright. Guided by Recovery Girl, Izuku made his way to the office, gingerly opening the door and spying Kaken on the far side of the room, sitting down on a bed. She gave them some privacy. Hey Kaken. He looked back, his trademark resting default scowl in full play. He had this faraway look in his eyes, as though he was not there, but imagine. His hands were wrapped in gauze, but otherwise unrestricted. There were no scars or injuries visible aside from his hands. His face had fully healed from Ishido's quirk. His silence said it all. You're angry. He simply shrugged at the fact. No yelling or otherwise explosive volume from the ticking time bomb that was Katsuki Bakugo. That's a really strong sedative. I lost. To you? Again. Heroes lose sometimes, you know? All Might doesn't. Izuku paused. Kaken doesn't know. No student knows. Only he knows the true nature of All Might, their greatest inspiration. His sickly form and darkened, hopeless eyes, his voice lost all spirit and hope. Kaken would never know the true nature of All Might until that wound killed him, and even then, it might be covered up to preserve hope and dignity. He wasn't allowed to be seen as weak, even though he was human, as well. To Izuku, the prospect of having to live a lie to serve as a worldwide symbol of peace was terrifying. Yet both he and Kaken were rushing towards that future, eager to fill the massive void that All Might would leave behind when he passed. Only now had he realized the massive responsibility it entailed. All Might is human like the rest of us. He sometimes can't save everyone, but he never loses a fight. Being a hero isn't just about fights. Silence. Deku. Izuku couldn't help but notice just how pronounced he uttered the once demeaning nickname. You got a thing for Pinky? Huh. Whoa. Where the hell did that come from? Kaken, what does that have to do with? You two work together, as if you've been doing it all your damn lives. I lost because you two go together like pedophilia. An anime. I would have won if it was ANYONELC. He lost his energy at the end of his rant, the sedatives working their way through his blood and exhausting him of his usual energy. Katsuki couldn't help but compare it to when Deku used his pheromones on him. At least Deku turned it off. I don't know. She's friendly and really pretty, and sometimes when I'm with her I feel this. Yeah, no shit. But would you cook her breakfast the morning after? Kaken, answer the damn question. I don't know, alright? Uncomfortable silence. You ran, Deku. It was you and me, and you fucking ran to save her instead of facing me. You don't hit back as much as you should, yeah, but you never run away. You wouldn't have ran if it was anyone else. You ran because it was her. I ran because the objective of the villain team was to protect the bomb, and she wouldn't have been able to take on Todoroki on her own. It wouldn't have mattered if I won our fight. He would have found the bomb. It was about being smart. It wasn't about her. It was about being a hero, Bakugo finished. Another uneasy silence pervaded the room, intensifying with each passing second. Izuku felt a measure of anger and disappointment. He came here to make his friend feel better, and to show him he cares, difficult as that was. All they've done is fight so far. Don't ever apologize for winning. Heroes always win, and should never say sorry, not even when they kill the villain. That particular word sent chills down his spine. He could feel his longtime friend's will and determination made manifest. Sedative or not, he fully believed in everything he was saying. He wasn't just full of hatred for villains, he was a generator of hatred. Izuku chose his next words carefully. I'm sorry, I don't know exactly how I feel about Ishido. And you're right, my familiarity with her helped us work together better than if anyone else was my partner. You're exhausted from the sedative and your treatment, so try and relax. I'm heading back. The explosion spammer simply huffed. I don't know what you're talking about, Deku. I'm always relaxed. Izuku smiled. Yeah, I know you are. Mina watched in giddiness at the matchup on the screen. Hanta Zero was currently slowing down and ambushing Kirishima, and it was more evenly matched than one would suspect. Zero was using his sticky tape to completely block off hallways, while Kirishima was forced to activate his hardening quirk to make his hands sharp enough to cut through the artificial jungle. Kirishima's partner, Koda, was unfortunately out of his natural element in this exercise. Izuku would be geeking out so hard right now. I'll have to tell him all about it when he gets back. Speaking of the green-haired devil, Midoriya, you gotta watch this. Izuku turned towards her, and she couldn't help but notice a solemn frown plastered over his usual thought-filled neutrality. He looked as if someone got him a puppy and took it away 2 days later. He put on a weak smile, but she knew the truth. Whatever happened with his friend was bothering him. Maybe she should have tagged along. Hey Izuku, Mina lowered her voice and walked over to him, creating a bit of space for them to talk. Did something bad happen there? Dang, you saw right through me, huh? Just a lucky guess. The green bean shook his broccoli head. Just being Kaken is all, attempting to assure Midoriya. But Mina just happened to be an experienced social butterfly. She knew the tells of deception and holding back information. A slight pause in the voice, irregular eye contact, too much eye contact, body language. She could tell his stress levels were high. Something was still bothering him. She figured there was only one way to know for sure. She stepped slightly forward, bringing her face just barely in front of her friend's personal space bubble. Most people wouldn't think twice about it, but Midoriya would likely recall, being the awkward around pretty girls type of guy she knew he was. Are you sure? Yeah, Mina, positive, nonchalantly responded to Izuku. You didn't flinch at all. Well, that confirmed it. He's putting up a false casual front to avoid any more questions. Whatever this was is probably hella serious, all the more reason to help him though. She'd have to figure it out later. So, who's fighting? Oh, Kirishima and Koda, the rocky dude, versus Zero and Hagakure. Oh sweet, exclaimed Izuku, as he found his way to one of the many screens the class was watching, and just like that, their conversation ended. Damn it Izu, why won't you tell me? Izuku let out a steep breath upon putting distance between himself and Mina, not out of necessity to breathe, but out of tension. The words exchanged in that infirmary left a question in his mechanically altered heart, and no augmentation would help him find the answer to it. Mina is perky and beautiful, and brings so much positive energy that I can't help but be carried away by her yet. Do I really like her? Or is she just a girl, and this uneasiness will go away in a month tops? All I know is that I don't want to lose what I have. The next day, 1A's homeroom class talked amongst themselves about the battles yesterday, congratulating and consoling each other on their results. Kirishima was attempting to establish some kind of social contact with Kaken, who barely tolerated his presence, and gave short, simple responses. Izuku was having a rather heated debate about hero versus villain matchups with Ida, who was stubbornly insistent that the heroes would always prevail, while Izuku took a more realistic approach. Mina was chatting it up with Hagakure about girl stuff, said both of them whenever Izuku questioned them. Girl stuff. What does that even mean? I guess I can't judge though. I've been keeping quiet about girl stuff too. Then, a shadow darker than Tokoyami breached the entrance to the room. The class sat still and quiet at the necessary intrusion of their homeroom teacher, Shoyuta Aizawa. His presence filled the room with uncertainty and slight discomfort. Silent before I entered the classroom, these kids are learning. Students of Class 1A today. The class braced themselves for another rational deception or otherwise underhanded assignment that would make them either cry or rage in the stress it brought, but thankfully, they were spared. You will be choosing your class representative. The classroom's fuse was set and exploded in energy. Nearly everyone raised their hands and called to be chosen, but Tenya Ida had an idea. Everyone, I am well aware of the enticement of class authority, but not everyone is capable of leading others into glory. I suggest we hold a democratic vote to ensure whoever is in office is mutually decided to be most worthy of such a station. Would that be suitable, Aizawa-sensei? Sure, just pick someone before class ends, said the sleeping bag on the floor. What's to stop people from just voting for themselves though? Cynically countered Kyokujiro. Our battles against each other from hero training, of course. We have all seen each other strive and struggle yesterday, and I believe that is sufficient enough data to choose our vote. Ida did not miss a single beat in his response. The class begrudgingly agreed that it made some sense, and was far more productive than just screaming "pick me," although of course, the prospect of a vote made others commit to some popularity strategy. Nearly everyone chimed up to be elected, claiming policies and promising rewards. "Vote for me, and I'll bake you all a bunch of sweets every other week," shamelessly bribed Rikido Sato. "Vote for me, and I'll let some of you extras get in on me and Deku's training sessions," angrily enticed Bakugo. "Vote for me, and I'll make it so the girls can only come to school in skimpy outfits," desperately exclaimed the grape-headed pervert, Mineta. The class had very little to say about that one, particularly the girls. At the end of Mineta's self-shaming proclamation, the class chatted amongst themselves and their friends, taking on a more personal approach. "Hey Izuku, you gonna vote for me or what?" questioned the upbeat. "Can't say I'm surprised by Mina wanting the job, but I seriously think Ida has a point about responsibility." "Well, I'd love to, but you're not the most responsible if I'm being honest with you." "Why Izuku, what makes you say that? You almost never turn your work in on time, and you keep messing with my hands like I'm some kinda animal or something." "That's because they're cool as hell, dude. It's a compliment." "Oh wait a minute, you're just saying this so you can touch my horns, huh?" Sneaky Izuku. The boy blushed at the girl's suggestion. He had taken some glances at his friend's horns. That would be rather pronounced if her hair wasn't as curly and messy as it was. It's not like he really wanted to mess with them or anything. It's just simple human curiosity, right? We want to know new things. In this case, he really wants to know what Mina's horns feel like. Nothing creepy or anything like that. Not like trying to feel her up or something. What was that about curiosity and horns? I knew it. Come on Izu, vote for me, and I'll let you feel them. Damn it, I was muttering again. I can't vote for you just to feel your horns, Mina. That's weird. Mina's voice lowered in volume and considerably softened. Izu, you don't actually have to vote for me or anything. My money is on Momo if we're being real here. But if you actually want to touch them, you can. It won't be weird if you're doing it, promise. The boy hesitated before responding. Are you sure? Yeah, go for it. Show me some of that Midoriya spirit like when you're fighting. Izuku took a deep breath and reached forward towards his friend's messy head of hair, the horns jutting out providing an admittedly enticing reason for his action. A smile gripped his face when he realized he was about to fulfill one of his many curiosities, and there was nothing quite as satisfying to him than that. It's a shame that wasn't going to happen today, however. Izuku stopped his reach upon realizing the sound in the classroom, or rather, the lack of it. The girls in the classroom had their eyes on him with varying levels of suspicion and disgust, while the boys looked curious, indifferent, or in the case of some certain grape and lighting-headed boys, unnerving. Go on. Midoriya touched her horns, nearly begging Mineta. Shouldn't you people be electing class prez or something? Shouted Mina, completely embarrassed by the invasive and perverted attention the class was giving them. Sorry Mina, weakly offered Izuku. Hey, it's not your fault. I kinda put us in this mess. You can touch me later. Izuku never noticed before, but Mina's violet blush that rarely crossed her face was beautiful. It made her seem so unlike herself, vulnerable and reclusive, yet physically it was the best possible makeup she could ever apply. Wait, does she wear makeup? I suppose not, since her acid would mess it up the moment even the slightest amount appeared, but maybe she found a way to circumnavigate that issue. After all, there are several products that take quirks into consideration, but even then, Mina did not get a response out of the boy. Instead, he started muttering about circumnavigation, whatever that was. What she did take note of was how his eyes never left her face. No matter how she waved her hand in front of him or snapped in his ears, he remained entranced. Her blush deepened in area and intensity when he, as well as the class, wouldn't stop looking at her. Damn it, Isa, this is no time for flattery. Eager to escape the awkward situation, Mina let some acid drip on Izuku's hand. Nothing too serious, but it would hurt normal flesh, so he should at least notice it. Izuku broke out of his trance and laughed. Mina, that tickles. No freaking way. Izuku kept laughing, even without direct contact. Her acid stuck to his metal hand and ate into it with minimal success, the sensation similar to nibbling, but on a much smaller scale. Mina saw her opportunity and reached for his hand again, which Izuku saw coming, and kicked his chair away from her, desperately cornering himself to avoid the sensation. Mina, wait. Nah, Izu, I have another way to mess with you, and I'm gonna abuse it. Mina PLE, Ashido. One word. One word was all it took for Aizawa to ruin the cheery mood, silence the classroom, and break the previously unproductive attitude spreading that seemed to come from Midoriya and Ashido. Those two seemed to have a positive influence on each other in battle, but elsewhere, it would bring them ruin, and, as a teacher, he could not allow that. There is nothing more cruel than being held back by the ones you hold dear. Stop tickling Midoriya As for the rest of you, stop gawking at basic social interaction and get back to work. Ida saw this as his chance to establish order now that the chaos was cleared away. Yes, Aizawa-sensei, everyone, I will pass out strips of paper. Please write the name of your preferred nominee. The person with the most votes will receive the title. And so, he did. Once he collected the papers and counted them up, he wrote the results down on the board starting with those who received the least amount of votes. Toru Hagakure 0, Minoru Mineta 0, Rikido Sato 0, Kyokujiro 0, Hantasiro 0, Ejiro Kurishima 0, Mashireo Ojiro 0, Mina Ashido 0, Koji Koda 0, Shoto Todoroki 0, Tsuyu Ajiri 0, Mizo Shoji 0, Denki Kaminari 0, Ochako Uraraka 0, Tenya Ida 1, Yuga Ioma 1, Fumikage Tokoemi 1, Bakugo Katsuki 3, Momo Yayorozu 7, Izuku Midoriya 7, a tie? Curses, defeated by my own system. Why the hell is DKU higher up than I am? I do not want this. A stalemate between Midoriya and Yororozu. We must have a tiebreaker to continue forth. May I suggest an intelligence quotient test? I do not think that would be wise, Ida-san. Yororozu herself spoke on the matter. She wanted this position. She felt that she, not to be imposing, was the perfect person for the job. She was also aware of Midoriya's particularly interesting quirk, but one thing she took note of was his grades on assignments. It was quite often he was the first to start working after he glanced at his notes, first to finish, and first to turn work in, almost as if he only needs to look at his notes once to absorb their information. Whether by photographic memory or simply an astounding intelligence, Midoriya will outpace me in traditional IQ tests. There's only one way I can defeat him, and that relies on the unpredictability of my quirk. Aizawa-sensei, for a tiebreaker I propose a trial by combat. The class gasped, and went silent at this. Aizawa, on the other hand, smiled to himself, and got up off the floor. A bold move against one of the strongest students in the class. You really want this, don't you? At the worst, it's extra combat exercise. At best, it will inspire your fellow students. Aizawa-sensei, we cannot possibly settle a democratic vote with barbaric viol. I accept your proposal. Everyone, make your way to Training Ground Delta, and be quick about it. Midoriya and Yororozu will be allowed to wear their hero costumes. Izuku gulped. This was not how he wanted this day to go. He took a glance at Yororozu, and immediately regretted it. Her usually calm demeanor and presence was replaced by one of cool determination and intensity. Mina was trying not to laugh at him, but failing. And Midoriya, regardless if you want this position or not, you are not to hold back, or you will be expelled. Are we clear? Yes, Aizawa-sensei. Class 1A arrived at Ground Delta, a massive indoor warehouse setting complete with cover, stacked industrial storage containers, wooden boxes, and barrels, and a large assortment of other storage utilities. The warehouse was well lit, and just a little too hot for the taste of most who resided within, resulting in the classmates of 1A casting off their heavy outer layer of uniform. Shoyuta Aizawa looked unbothered in his black head-to-toe apparel. Naturally, the students not participating in combat were on the upper walkways on the warehouse, which was shielded by heavy plastic boards attached to the railings that allowed for a relatively safe viewing of any such exercises below. The females, and a few males supported Yororozu, while most of the males supported Midoriya. The audience was ready, but Mina Ashido was not. Bleh, it almost feels wrong to oppose Aizu, even if it is for something as silly as nominating a class representative. I'm worried about him too. I know he's a tough cookie. I just don't like that look in Yororozu's eyes. Momo Yororozu and Izuku Midoriya were adorned in their hero costumes, one of them with the aim to reach higher, and the other simply wishing to keep his enrollment intact, and that meant fighting with everything he had. The two competitors were instructed to opposite sides of the arena warehouse. If there was one good thing to come out of this though, it was the excitement this confrontation was having on the class. You can do this, Yororozu. Don't kill her too much, DKU. Teach that gross horn grabber. Jiro, he didn't even. Don't hold back, Midoriya. Remember, equal rights and lefts. Find out if he's got any junk. Give it a good kick. Toru, Midoriya, Yororozu, you are both to fight to the best of your ability. Victory conditions are incapacitation, or submission to the other. Midoriya, if you hold back for any reason aside from outright killing her, you will be expelled. Yororozu, I expect the very same effort from you, no matter how much pain your victim is in. You are on the side of the law, and they are not. Show no sympathy. Are both of you ready? Yes, sensei. Begin. Combat assessment. Complete. Threat. Situational. Momo Yororozu is physically inferior to the user in terms of strength, speed, and size. Main and only danger stems from her creation quirk combined with her significant intelligence. Completely and utterly unpredictable, the threat can skyrocket depending on what she creates. Recommended course of action. Close distance, and end the fight before she has time to create anything that will give her an advantage. I'm sorry, Yororozu, but I can't be expelled. I need to be a hero. Izuku dashed across the warehouse, vaulting, and sliding between cover to ensure he could reach her as soon as possible, but unbeknownst to him, it was too late. Izuku was in the process of vaulting over some boxes when he heard a crack and received a shotgun blast to the chest. Whoa, holy shit, hell yeah, go Yororozu. Get the fuck up, DKU. You've faced worse in training. A shotgun? Aizawa, how is th? That firearm shoots non-lethal bean-bag projectiles and will not seriously harm someone like Midoriya. Ashido, you will address me as Aizawa-sensei, are we clear? Why yes, Aizawa-sensei. Izuku quickly recovered and rolled behind a shipping container, breathing heavily from the unexpected impact. Holy shit, is that real? No, it can't be. It has to be filled with non-lethal rounds or something that scared the hell out of me. I'll have to use armor or invisibility to get close. But what if she has planned around that too? How do I even begin to create a strategy against someone with limitless potential who can flip the entire playing field? Izuku activated his thermal vision and looked through his cover. Yororozu changed her position, now atop a pile of boxes to gain extra visibility, carefully aiming between the 2 points of cover that he could expose himself to. Something odd was on her head. What is that? He activated his invisibility and moved to the edge of his cover, and noticed her head turning like a swivel towards him. I think she can see me. He faked a movement like he was about to stick his invisible head out, before quickly ducking back, narrowly avoiding a blast to the face. Yep, she definitely sees me. Damn it, she has thermals too. I have no choice but to play into what she expects. Activating his crystalline armor, Izuku made a mad dash for his opponent, shrugging off the beanbag rounds that collided into him with surprising accuracy. He jumped onto her and nearly reached her weapon, but she fell backwards and swung from an already set-up grappling hook fastened to the walkways above, putting even more distance between them, and landed roughly on the concrete ground. Damn, she's relying on my need to get in close. Whoa, she played him like a fiddle. PFT, she was lucky. He nearly got her. Izuku ran for cover, or would have if he had the ability. Why can't I move? I have you now, Midoriya. Izuku strained to jump off the wooden box, but some kind of intangible, invisible tether kept him roped to its surface. Only Yororozu and Midoriya knew what kept him bound. A magnet? Shot after shot of beanbag rounds from her semi-automatic shotgun found their target. Izuku, who was straining to escape the magnetic grip of the magnet in the box while also keeping up his armor to minimize damage taken, but he was running out of time. In a fit of desperation, he punched through the box, causing the strong magnet to latch onto his left palm, effectively locking it into a fist. He sprinted towards Yororozu just as she was unluckily caught in a reload, and raised his fist back, smashing either her or the gun into pieces, and she chose the gun. Unfortunately, she was still in his range, and had no further equipment available. I'm sorry, Yororozu. Izuku grabbed her arm, and secured it firmly in a vice-like grip while rearing his magnetic fist back. One solid punch was all he needed to end this fight, and while he ultimately respected his opponent for covering her bases, coming up with an ingenious plan to trap him, and amazing accuracy with firearms, some fights were simply unwinnable. She couldn't kite him around forever, and he was simply too tough for non-lethal ammunition. She grabbed and pushed desperately at his face with her free arm, trying as hard as she could to disorient him, or so Izuku thought. No, Midoriya, I'm sorry. How is she tickling my face? Izuku, came a familiar, bone-chilling shriek from above. Then, a maelstrom of pain engulfed his senses. The smell of burning metal and flesh assaulted his nose, the sound of gasps, frantic screams of excitement, and incredible agony. An oppressive infinite darkness shrouded his right eye, as he found himself partially blind. Worst, however, was touch. Her touch, from the moment she said sorry, horrific, overwhelming, and unprecedented suffering latched onto him, ate through his armor entirely, and drove their hellish teeth directly into his nerves, even their natural pain-numbing properties not being enough to prevent him from adding his scream to Yororozu's. Yororozu didn't stop screaming, but she didn't just sacrifice her hand and hurt her classmate for nothing. She pulled another shotgun out from her torso, placed the business end against Midoriya's temple, and pulled the trigger. He was released from his suffering before he hit the ground. Izuku Midoriya woke up to an admittedly familiar smell and sensation, one of a hospital bed. The blinds on his window were open. He was back in the infirmary, his hero costume still on, with the exception of a removed vest, fully leaving his upper body exposed to the sun. What he was surprised to find, however, was that he was not the only one there. Across the room, his homeroom teacher Aizawa stood, staring at him. You're awake. Yeah, eloquently responded to Izuku, as he covered up his chest with a blanket. I apologize for letting things get out of hand. Oh no, it's alright. I can recover from nearly anything. Is Yororozu okay? I don't fully remember what happened. It has been a few hours. The pro hero paused, before throwing him a bundle of clothing, his Yui gym uniform, which Izuku gratefully accepted. Much has transpired since your defeat. Once you're dressed, follow me. Aizawa drew a privacy curtain next to his bed, allowing Izuku the dignity to dress himself. Izuku got off his bed, and followed Aizawa, sparing a glance at a nearby mirror. No evidence of injury whatsoever. He was completely healed from having extremely corrosive acid gushed onto his face. I can still feel it on me. I've never been in that much pain before. Shizenji-san, he's awake. Oh please Shida-kun, just call me Chio. How many years has it been? Izuku was approached by the very same recovery girl he had spoken to many times before, and the stern, disappointed look in her eyes said it all. Boy, do you legitimately enjoy being in pain? No judgments here. I simply believe you should limit your methods. No ma'am. Well, I believe you. Yaoyorozu is right over there, behind the curtain. Aizawa, the grumpy old cat of a hero, said you two were injured. I imagine you two have some choice words to say to each other? Just don't let it escalate to violence. Thank you recovery girl, for everything. You should be thanking that girlfriend of yours, who came in a few times to check on you, and make sure nobody closed the blinds. Not that I would let them. Girlfriend? I already told you, Shizenji, there are no romantic happenings between any of my students. Yet, enthusiastically remarked the old hero. In any case, after you are finished talking to Yororozu, I want you to talk to me before you leave. I have something of significance to tell you before you resume your classes. With that, the medic and homeroom teacher left Izuku alone, with Yaoyorozu apparently on the other side of a flimsy curtain, their only illusion of privacy. He thought for a moment on what to say to her, what even could he say to her. Oh hi Yaoyorozu, congrats on the promotion. Hope your hand didn't melt off, because my face is 100% okay. Would she be angry at him for driving her to such extreme measures? Would things be awkward? Would she feel bad about rubbing acid in his face just for a title? Granted, they hadn't really spoken to each other, but this may have ruined whatever first impression he might have wanted to make. So this is the muttering that Mina talks about. Come in, Midoriya-san. Stealing his nerves, and casting away his turbulent thoughts, Izuku walked through the curtain, revealing a surprisingly okay sight. Yororozu was laying down on the infirmary bed, her right hand wrapped in several layers of gauze. Like Izuku, she was not in her hero costume, instead having donned a simple hospital gown. She looked clean, rested, and generally pretty considering how injured her hand must have been. Her face wore a slight smile, as though she had reassured her dignity despite the sacrifice. How is her are you? Well, you tried, Midoriya. My hand, you mean? It will recover in time, but the scars will never fade, so I'm told. Truth be told, I don't think I want them to either. All my life, I have been training, and training, and training to fulfill this impossible dream, to become a hero. My family doesn't exactly approve, but in my heart I know it is the right choice for me. When I came here, I expected that training to pay off, to bear fruit. Yet you always seem to place first, always surpassing me. You achieved a record-breaking score in the entrance exam, got ahead of me in the quirk apprehension test, and even your grades seemed to outdo my own. So when the opportunity for class representative presented itself, I knew I had to have this, if only to reassure myself that my training wasn't for nothing. Training for as long as I could remember, to make myself as close to perfection as possible, and you're quirk it makes you the perfect human. I was striving for perfection, but you're already there. How could I compete with that? Yororozu took a deep, shaky breath, and sighed, her voice trembling at the end of her speech. Midoriya could tell from experience that she was nearly at a point where tears would flow. I'm sorry, Midoriya. I'm sorry I was so reckless and brash, for succumbing to my desires for greatness, and to my envy of you. It was not very heroic, and only put us both in the infirmary. I am also sorry for ruining whatever friendship we could have had. You and Ashido get along very well, and while she and I have our differences, I know she is a good judge of character. I also, Yororozu-san. Izuku offered a warm smile to her. I am not angry at you. I'm very impressed you saw what you wanted, and took it, despite the overwhelming odds. You wanted the job far more than I did, and that showed today. To see someone other than Bakugo defeat me is refreshing, and the way you did it, to go so far just to win you reminds me of his strength, his drive. It's one of the highest compliments I can offer. Your strategy of using your range was brilliant, and that magnet trick, that was legitimate pro-hero thinking. You're amazing, Yororozu. I would love to be your friend. Wear those scars with pride, and don't ever apologize for winning. Momo Yororozu was shocked, for lack of a better word. She had expected him to chastise her, to tell her just how petty and recklessly stupid she had been just to win, but it seemed to have had the opposite effect. He respected out-of-the-box thinking, as well as the mental fortitude of others, their drive. It suddenly made sense how he and Bakugo were mostly friendly with each other. They respected each other's strength and determination to become heroes. Despite his easily flustered and well geeky attitude. One of his values is power, but there was kindness too, in his smile, in his almost somber expression when he got a hold of her, and raised his fist back. He didn't legitimately enjoy defeating her, he just had to, and right now, reassuring her that what she did was right, and there was no reason to apologize. Izuku, where have you been all my life? Thank you, Midoriya. I never approached the topic that way before since we're friends now. We should call each other by our names, don't you think? Of course, you're right. It's been an honor to fight you, Momo. Likewise, Izuku. She furrowed her brow, remembering that her new friend had been sleeping for a while now. He didn't know, did he? Izuku, you should talk to Aizawa-sensei. He has something important to tell you. I see, well, I'll see you around. She chuckled lightly. I'd certainly hope so, as we share classes. Oh, right. Izuku Midoriya left the still injured girl to rest. His heart lightened of its heavy burden. He could only hope he did the same for her. It didn't take long to find Aizawa, as he had been waiting at the entrance to the infirmary. How is she? She's alright, Aizawa-sensei. Good. How are you? Caught a little off guard by the question, Izuku stumbled a bit before fully answering. And then I said, you should never apologize for winning. And after that she seemed to have cheered up a bit. And then I understand. I am pleased to know no lasting trauma will remain between the two of you. Midoriya, something embarrassing happened while you were unconscious. An unauthorized individual, or individuals, trespassed onto Yui, past the security barrier that keeps the usual press out. How is that even possible? They weren't even caught? Is everyone okay? Nobody received any serious injuries, thanks to our class-own Tenya Ida, who spotted the press outside and found a way to grab a frightened mob of teenagers' attention. He told them it was just a press, and that there is nothing to worry about. As far as the student base goes, you are the only one who knows the truth of what happened, and I expect it to stay that way. Are we clear? Izuku took the information in. It seemed almost impossible that anyone would willingly break into a school patrolled by some of the most powerful heroes in Japan. It was clever to use the press as a smokescreen, and by time, but the task in itself was nearly suicidal. What could possibly be worth breaking into the school for? Another thought occurred. Aizawa-sensei, why did you tell me the truth? Aizawa glared at Izuku, almost as if he had already declared him unworthy for simply questioning authority. But he couldn't be further from the truth. In the field, a hero must rely on logic and information to make decisions, but there are also moments where he needs to trust his gut. I have a very open relationship with my instincts. This infiltration is not an attack in itself. It was for the purpose of gathering information. I do not know how or when we will be attacked, or who the infiltrators will target, but I do suspect it is going to happen sometime in the future. Midoriya, I told you because you are the most naturally inquisitive of Class 1A. If you find or see anything wrong, you are to report directly back to me. Also, congratulations on becoming deputy representative. You are to assist Yaoyorozu, and occasionally fill in for her, as class representative if the need arises. Understood, Aizawa-sensei. Good, now follow me. Press break in and no, class must continue. You, and your classmates, excluding Yaoyorozu, will be transported by bus to a facility some fair distance from the school. You are allowed to wear your hero costume, but it was damaged during your fight. Gym uniforms are acceptable, however, so there's nothing to stop you from immediately heading to the bus. Yes, Aizawa-sensei. With Izuku Midoriya in tow, Aizawa made his way to the Yui bus, and got in the driver's seat, already aware of the explosion of noise that would erupt from a certain pink-haired individual once she saw a certain green-haired one. A small part of him was relieved that Midoriya had no complications in recovery. As a teacher, it was his duty to guide his students, and that included keeping them from permanently disabling themselves over what was essentially an additional burden of responsibility. Sighing, he motioned for Izuku to board the bus. Students, I am pleased to announce that Izuku cheered a speeding, pink bullet, as it collided onto the poor boy, and nearly knocked him over, his frame completely locked in her arms. Izuku's face turned a flurry of reddish tones, accompanied by a drastic increase in temperature once he realized just how close they were. The girl's generous upper half wasn't helping either. Mina's face was extremely close to his, and set ablaze in a bright smile at seeing her dear friend unharmed, and flustered. I was so worried about you. You were all I'm sorry, Yaoyorozu, and she was all you, are already dead, and you went all nanny. And wow, Aiza, is it me? Or did that acid do your face some favors? Teased the still uncomfortably close Mina Ashido. And Mina, TSK, I'm just messing with you, dude. I'm really glad you're okay. I got really scared when Momo did what she did. I honestly feel like she went too far, you know? Kirishima spoke up, his smile bright, as ever at seeing his bro Midoriya unharmed. Well, I didn't know about that, Ashido. What she did was honestly really manly. I mean, come on. She almost melted her hand to defeat the strongest guy in class, and it worked. Who you calling strongest guy in class, Shark Week? Yelled out Bakugo, who was admittedly pleased to see his free rival. His rival and training partner had made a full recovery. Everybody sit down, we're going to a rescue training site, and it would be impractical to have one of you sustain a head injury beforehand. Now it was Izuku's turn to let his emotions run rampant, as he sat down next to Mina. Rescue training. This is what it means to be a hero, not just fighting people, but saving them. I've been looking forward to this for ages. Well, as long as it's not a crashed ship or anything. The frog-like girl Tsuyu Ajui raised an eyebrow at that statement. Are you unable to swim, Midoriya? Well, embarrassingly confirmed the supposedly upgraded human. Well done, Tsu. He's a pretty heavy guy in case you haven't noticed, once again teased Mina. Heavy? You're right, Ashido. Midoriya does look a little on the heavy side, supporting Hantashiro, catching wind of Mina's teasing, and going along with it, his mischievous smile widening. What? Wait, I'm not that kind of heavy, am I? Sputtered out Izuku, as he frantically looked down at his gym uniform. Wait a minute. The laughter of his classmates said it all. You're so funny, Mina. Just so funny. Time passed by, and Izuku grew closer to Class 1A in their short talks and interactions with each other. Just as he had formed a close bond with Mina, some other students seemed to have formed friendships as well. Kaminari and Jiro teased each other, but it was a little rougher, and me compared to what he and Mina had. Uraraka and Hagakure both had bubbly and playful personalities, and covered a variety of subjects from bargain shopping to fashion. Kirishima appeared successful in befriending Bakugo, as they now legitimately talked about things, one of which was comparing workout regimens. Shoji and Todoroki were spotted giving each other short nods and occasional words. Every friendship starts somewhere, right? The only one not making contact with anyone was the bird-headed Tokoemi, who looked like he was professionally brooding. Hey Midoriya? Tsuyu Ajui caught Izuku's attention. Oh yes, Ajui-san? Just call me Tsu. I tend to say what's on my mind. Your quirk is kind of like ours. Like yours? Well, not mine but like others. That black armor of yours is like Kirishima's hardening quirk. Your invisibility is shared with Toru, and your legs rival Ida's. Even your strength is comparable to Sato's. Hearing like Jiro, need I go on? How do you know about my hearing? Educated guest Tsuyu shrugged. Hey. Iza just happens to have a really good quirk. He's copying our best traits, so what? I think it's really flattering you decided to copy my eyes, Izuku. I didn't. Oh? So you don't think my eyes are fantastic, is what you're saying? Mina jabbed at Izuku, eager to see his reclusive evasion. God, he's so cute when he's embarrassed. A pause, a realization. Wait, cute? Mina, leave Midoriya bro alone. He's had a long day. I think your eyes are wonderful, Mina, said Izuku before he could stop himself. Silence came over the bus, as Izuku and Mina both started muttering and stuttering, eager to clear up what must have been a misunderstanding of some sort. Mina's cheeks flushed a dark lilac as she wrestled the storm of violently powerful thoughts and emotions around her head, trying to make some sense of it. Jiro discreetly passed Kaminari a significant sum of yen along with a huff of defeat. Jesus, Mina, get a hold of yourself. He's complimented you before. How is this any different? He stares at your eyes for crying out loud. The embarrassed teasing thing. He's cute like a puppy. Like a shy robotic puppy, right? No reason to feel what I'm feeling. If that is what I'm feeling, I don't know. It's too early to tell. Way too early. Say something. Hey Izu, Then, the bus stopped in front of a massive dome. Aizawa, thank God for that scruffy, beautiful man, broke the awkward tension in the air. Students, let's go. You are about to meet another hero. Once they got off the bus, they were introduced to someone who looked like they were wearing a space suit with weird caps over their fingertips. But once they turned around, the class caught on immediately. Uraraka in particular seemed to be awestruck by none other than the space hero. 13. Let us go inside without further delay. There is much for you to learn. Looking forward to working with you. Respectfully acknowledged most of the class. Inside the massive building, the students took in their surroundings with reactions of wonder, surprise, and anticipation. The dome was far bigger on the inside, with multiple disaster scenarios contained only by the sheer distance between them. Destroyed buildings, a raging fire, a wrecked ship, a mountain covered in snow, and so many more settings made the dome seem endless. 13 spoke to the students, having rehearsed a short speech beforehand. Greetings, students. I am 13, and this is the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, USJ for short. I personally designed this structure for the purpose of simulating natural and unnatural disasters, in which you will all participate in. Before I go into any further detail, I must speak with your teacher. 13 walked over to Aizawa and spoke in a hushed tone, but Izuku heard things loud and clear. Aizawa-san, regarding All Might. Aizawa's eyes widened as he brought a finger up to his lips and tapped once at his ear, glaring at Izuku as he did. Ah, I see. I'll explain later. What was that about All Might? Why'd they stop talking? Returning to the crowd, 13 spoke of quirks, how they save lives, and just as easily end them. She, or perhaps he, used her own quirk, black hole, which was capable of sucking up matter and turning it into dust, as an example. She went over their quirk usages so far, in Aizawa's test, All Might's combat training, and in Izuku's duel against Yaoyorozu, much to his embarrassment. And today, you will be using your quirks to save lives. That is all I have to say. After a polite applause from the enthusiastic crowd of students, Aizawa turned to them to start the activity, but stopped when he felt a chill down his neck, his finely tuned sixth sense alerting him to a disturbance. Turning towards the center of USJ, he spotted a purple void materialize, with far too many figures entering through it for his liking. He spotted the costumes of the individuals, most of their faces covered by masks or hoods, and came to his own conclusion. Villains. Students, don't move. Why are they attacking here? How could they have known we would be here at this exact time? Diligently questioned Ida. Izuku and Aizawa came to the realization immediately. The infiltration. Someone must have found a way to disable the sensors and disrupted communications between USJ and the school beforehand, finished Aizawa. Due to its relatively remote location, USJ is the safest place to strike directly at you from a villain's perspective, but to gather information and attack on the same day? Arrogant villains. Kaminari, see if you are able to contact the school to protect the students. I will buy time for reinforcement. Aizawa put on his signature yellow goggles and prepared to engage the enemy. Izuku recognized the gear the moment he saw it. Individual profile, Pro Hero, Eraserhead, name acquired, Shoyuta Aizawa. Predatory hero with Erasure quirk, capable of nullifying the quirks of others, locking his opponents in a quirkless duel. Uses stealth tactics, armed and unarmed combat, and gadgetry to neutralize foes. Avoids press attention to minimize the information gathered by villains. Eraserhead Sensei, do you intend to fight them all by yourself? Your fighting style revolves around ambush and stealth. A group of that size will catch on to your erasure quickly. A frontal assault is downright suicidal, warned Izuku. No sugarcoating on that one, Midoriya? About time. Students, Bakugo and Midoriya, do not assist me in this fight. The villains are here for you, and we cannot allow them to gain any further control of the situation than they already have. 13. Evacuate the students. Also, a hero can't be a one-trick pony, Midoriya. And with that last remark, Eraserhead jumped into the fray. There is merit to the boy's words, but I do not rely on quirks and equipment alone. The simplest solution is usually the best one, thought the pro-hero Eraserhead as he punched a villain square in his jaw. Whoa, he's beating them all. That's what it means to be a pro. It's almost like he's dancing. Our teacher is so cool. 3 more figures emerged from the portal. The first, a tall, lanky man with disembodied hands covering his face and body, radiating murderous intent. The second, a massive, pure black beast of human with a bird-like head, with the exception of a fully exposed brain. He looked as though his humanity was stripped from his core and stood still as a statue. Last was the portal's substance itself, taking a vague gaseous form, and with him, the last of the villains entered USJ. Students, we must evacuate. Aiza, stop fanboying, and let's go. Reluctantly breaking away from Aizawa's awesome dispensation of justice, Izuku followed the group to the exit, but were all blocked by that same mysterious portal substance now in front of them. The portal rose up, higher and higher, until it towered over the students. 2 eye-like slits of light in the villain's gaseous form peered at them from the abyss, as he spoke. It may be presumptuous of us, but we let ourselves in. We are the League of Villains. We are here to end the reign of the symbol of peace, All Might. One question remains, however, where is he? Our intelligence suggests he was scheduled to be here, but he is not. Combat assessment, in progress. Threat unknown. Possess a form of portal or warping quirk that allows himself and others to be transported to various locations. Most likely serves as a utility, as opposed to a combatant. Physical form is either shrouded by gaseous substance or composed of it. Recommended course of action. Gather more information. He isn't here to directly kill us. He would be defeated by our sheer numbers. He wants to scatter us with whatever those portals are. The villain continued his speech. It matters not, for that is not my role to play. My presence here is to kill every single one of you students. Bakugo and Kirishima tensed up, and only Izuku caught it in time. Kacha, stay out of 13's way. He glared at Izuku with a partial killing intent, but held himself back a bit longer, begrudgingly accepting whatever plan Deku had. Kirishima followed suit, and just nodded. 13 took this as her time to make a choice between the lives of her students or the life of a villain. Unfortunately, she was in no position for non-lethality. I may not be a combat hero, but I cannot let you harm my students. Surrender, or be devoured by the empty void of space. 13 let out a shout before uncapping one of her fingers and unleashed her extremely lethal quirk on the villain. Massive pressure and tornado winds wrestled with the villain's amorphous form, exposing a metallic brace in its shroud-like form. It seemed victory was at hand, as he was pulled closer, and closer to 13. Until the last second, of course. Faster than anyone could react, a portal opened up directly behind 13, and the intense winds from her quirk ate into her back instead, tearing a massive hole into her spacesuit. She couldn't even scream, as she fell limp on the ground. The shrieks and gasps of terrified students shook the air. "Ida, you have to escape, and get help," whispered Izuku. Ida straightened his glasses and nodded. He did not feel okay leaving his friends and classmates, not in the slightest, but nobody else was coming for them, regardless if they defeated this one villain or not. Besides, he was just given a direct order by the class deputy. It would be nothing short of dishonorable to disobey. Before he could stop him, however, Midoriya walked forward. "Everyone, stand back. I'll deal with him." Izuku extended his arm blades and took his place at the front of the crowd, putting on a false front of bravado to convince the villain who the real threat was. Hopefully, before whatever happened to him, Ida would escape and save the rest of the class. Bakugo figured his plan out, but Mina and most of the class could not possibly understand why Izuku was going out there, exposing himself to this thing. "Do you intend to end my life with those blades of yours, young man? I don't believe you are capable, physically or otherwise. If you wish for a prolonged death, step forward, and I will make yet another example." Ida prepared himself. With a fierce, uncharacteristic war cry of "Die!" Izuku dashed towards the villain and thrusted forward, attempting to predict where that metal brace was, but whether he missed or the villain dodged, he lost his mark. "Caught sight of that, did you? Congratulations. I deem you worthy of polluting my warp gates with your entrails." Polluting his warp gates? Suddenly, the ground below him opened up, and Izuku narrowly avoided being split in half by the wrap gate, as it rapidly closed. But his left arm blade was not so lucky, as nearly the entire blade was severed. "Guess I should be thankful I can't feel those." Time for part 2 of the plan. Kaken! Finally! Bakugo literally blasted himself into the action, and unleashed a massive explosion into the thick smoke villain, blowing away his cover, and exposing the metal brace that contained his true body. Izuku rushed for it, and tried to grab it, but faster than even his eyes could see, his right arm was engulfed in a shadowy warp gate up to his elbow. Then, the gate closed. The entire class stared in a mixture of shock, horror, and pure rage except for one. Izuku gasped at the sheer pain his hyperactive mind was taking in, and stumbled back, holding what remained of his right arm, as it dripped a golden ichor, staining the floor. The villain laughed at his victory. "Having your classmate expose and distract me while you go for my true body is excellent improvisation. You're swift, but I have trained for decades. It may as well be instant. Something I question, however, is your choice to retract your blades and reduce your range at the last second. If you had not, you may have found your mark." "Why?" Izuku's pain suppressants kicked in, and the boy found himself able to stand up straight and speak again, albeit with some difficulty. "They. The villain chose to allow him his last words, if only to satisfy his curiosity. They were not the distractions. I was the distraction." Creak. Everyone looked at the exit to USJ. The door creaked ever so slightly, but was forced open enough for a student to get through. Someone had escaped. The students of Class 1A knew immediately, but the villain had no such luxury. His voice's tone turned from amusement to a forced, deadly calm. "Well done. Tell me your name." "Izuku Midoriya." "Congratulations on your victory, Midoriya. It will be your last. Farewell." With those last words, the villain opened a portal underneath him, and Izuku fell into the void. "Well, this sucks. This really no. Mom always said to focus on the positives first. Let's see Ida escape. Everyone knows that Smoke Villain has a weak point, so maybe they can fight him, and Aizawa is actually the badass Eraserhead. Okay, now let's focus on the negatives. 13 is out of commission, possibly dead. That Smoke Villain is still very capable of killing or scattering some students before being overwhelmed, and can instantly escape at any time. My fucking arm was just cut off, and I'm hurtling towards what looks like a very large body of water from a height of at least a few hundred feet. Once I impact the water, I'm gonna have the wind knocked out of me, and oh yeah, I still can't swim, arms or no. Hopefully it isn't too deep." Izuku plummeted down to earth and adjusted his body to hit the water feet first before doing exactly that. The rush of water overwhelmed his senses, but thankfully he was perfectly capable of seeing clearly under the water, at least for now. He sank further and further beneath, the rays of sun growing dim. His ears picked something up, however, a noise from down under, in the dark. It got close enough for him to see it on his thermals. A villain? Please don't have a ranged quirk. Lady Luck favored him that day. The villain's quirk gave him a shark-like appearance, evidenced by his extremely fast swim speed. The shark approached Izuku from directly underneath, and rushed upwards to deliver a gut-ripping bite, but would be denied his glory that day. Izuku punched the man directly in the nose, and grabbed his thick throat with his remaining hand, bringing his ears close to his mouth, as he struggled in his grasp. "Swim. Up. Now." The man understood him, and swam upwards to the surface, to the light. Izuku wrapped his hand around the villain's torso to secure himself and withstand his breakneck swim speed. When they breached the surface of the water, the augmented students saw they were not alone. Surrounding them were other villains with aquatic-type quirks. Izuku felt a shiver down his spine, but not one of fear. This shiver was familiar and electric. A new augmentation, please be wings, or flippers or something that helps me move. New augmentation, pheromone emitter fear. Fear? Well okay, that's disappointing. God damn it, did you seriously get taken hostage by a kid with one arm? Yelled an aquatic villain with an intimidating mask, or worse, his actual face. Hostage? Okay, it's just acting, right? I hope this works. Before the villain in his grasp could respond, Izuku activated the fear, and shifted his remaining hand over to his hostage's throat, and extended his arm blade, as far as he could, a stunning half-foot since it was damaged by that rap gate. He twisted his face into a cruel grin, and brought the blade closer into his throat, drawing blood in the process, but not going through muscle. It's just acting. Everything's gonna be okay. Good evening, you subhuman wastes. My name is Deku, but from what I see, that applies more to you than it does me. They really did just pick some degenerates off the streets, and drop them in a pond without telling you how deep the water is, huh? They didn't tell you what my quirk is either, did they? Some of the villains looked angry at the insults, but some actively shifted at his words, as uncertainty was sown in their thoughts. The fact that one of their allies had a blade at his throat, and the kid was goddamn smiling at the whole thing wasn't reassuring them of their advantage. I thought not. My quirk really speaks for itself, and my unusual appearance is a byproduct, as I nearly killed myself with it at a very young age. Unfortunately, every other person within a few hundred feet did not have the same luck. It's called Electric Storm. The vast majority of villains were now clearly unnerved. Some had swam away to put as much distance as possible between them and electric death, while the masked villain swam his ground. Damn, he must be a leader-type individual. We do not wish for death, Deku. That being said, our ally is still in your hands, and from what you've told me, you wouldn't hesitate to kill him, and all of us after he brings you to shore. Why should I lay down and let you kill us without a fight? Izuku kept his wicked grin. Because you won't get close anyways. Your forces are in fear. They wouldn't dare take up arms. It would only be you, cutting off any chance of mercy in some vain attempt to rescue him. If things go my way, you have a chance. If not, Izuku tightened his grip on the hostage, momentarily strangling him in front of all of them. Fine, I surrender, spat on the lead aquatic villain. Excellent. Dear pet, lead me to shore please, Izuku commanded. Why yes, nearly choked out the almost crying shark quirk villain. The shark swam towards shore before walking onto the land, where Izuku gained control over his movement and unhandled the villain. He stared at the augmented hero awkwardly, and realized he wasn't afraid of him anymore. Not even slightly. It's as if a switch in his head was turned off, and he saw Deku again, as a kid with a missing arm that he was being paid a lot to kill. He should. I still have the blade in my arm, in case you forgot. Make a move, and I'll gut you, and all your friends once this is over. Or get in the water, and I'll never see you again. Maybe he could let the kid go just this once. Izuku watched, as the aquatic villains received their comrade, and took in a deep breath, as he realized just how close he was to dying for the second time that day. Sighing, he looked over to Aizawa cleaning up the last of the low-grade thugs. He was certainly moving slower than he was when he started, and his hair was not up as much, so that signals his quirk use. Then, one of the more dangerous-looking villains with the macabre hand decor sprinted towards him and grabbed Aizawa's binding cloth as it was thrown at him. Aizawa went in with an elbow thrust, while also dodging a grab from the villain at the same time. Unfortunately, he was far stronger than he looked, and managed to grab his elbow before it could fully wind him. The teacher's elbow started flaking and disintegrating, the clothes, an outer layer of flesh disappearing before him. Aizawa gasped and punched him with his free hand before retreating. Other thugs used the opportunity to attack, but were still easily defeated, leaving Eraserhead and his enemy in a glaring contest. A touch-based disintegration quirk. Aizawa must have overused his erasure by now fighting that army. He needs my help. With me we can beat them, and then he'll be able to shut down that warp gate guy. Ida, please hurry. Izuku activated his invisibility and stalked the blue-haired villain, approaching from his flank as he continued to stare at the pro-hero. He was nearly in range. Little brat, there aren't nearly enough screams to cover up your stomping. Damn it, I'm not wearing my stealth boots. He attempted to grab Izuku, but with the lack of a visible body to grab it was easily dodged, and countered with a rib-breaking punch of his own. The villain's breath hitched as he retreated, but was covered up by a bloodthirsty growl. He gave up? Well, I can't quite fight off Eraserhead and his robotic one-armed brat with broken ribs, can I? I didn't want to damage him, but at desperate times, right? This is a hell of a mini-boss encounter. He looked up towards the Inhuman, bird-faced creature, who had been standing mechanically still this entire time. Izuku pieced it together. They were here to kill All Might, but some lowly thugs and 2 legitimately dangerous villains couldn't possibly be enough to kill him. The answer to the puzzle was right in front of them the whole time, and so far it hadn't hurt a soul. He felt something wrap around his torso. Noma. Izuku managed to track him with his eyes, but couldn't react in time to his sheer speed. He was pulled back by Aizawa's binding cloth just barely before that thing could smash a mighty fist into the ground where he once stood, pulverizing the surface and knocking the heroes back from the sheer winds generated. Just like All Might when he defeated the sludge villain. Combat assessment in progress. Threat unrivaled. Noma shows signs of genetic modification, allowing for supernatural strength, speed, and durability comparable with number 1 hero. All Might possess massive combat advantage over every other threat user has faced so far. Recommend action. Activate invisibility escape. Aizawa must have erased his quirk. Is he truly that fast and strong without quirks? He's like All Might. Do you like him? My Nami has been created specifically to kill All Might, but I don't think he'll take any damage killing you. May as well get the ads out of the way before the final boss, right? Noma okay. A booming sound from the entrance of USJ captured the attention of those within. I am here, All Might. Suddenly, the Warp Gate villain appeared next to the apparent leader of the pack. Much of his smoky mass was considerably reduced, to the point where you could see the outline of his metal chassis. Tamura Shigaraki, a student has escaped. The pros will be he. No, quiet, don't ruin this. Hei's here, and Nami will crush him. He has too. All we've done this is what it's led up to. The final fight once he is dead, we will leave. Shigaraki examined his ally a little more closely. Couldn't handle a few kids, Kurojairi? Pathetic. Kurojairi directed his gaze towards Izuku, wet, mutilated, and worse for wear, but very much alive. Izuku glared back, an unspoken nemesis established between the two, that would have to be determined at a later time. Because right now, All Might was not smiling. The Titan of Peace made his way towards the Grand Plaza of USJ, absolutely crushing every villain in his path to ensure no further interference. Like Nomu, he was too fast to react. Even Izuku could barely track him with his eyesight. He tore off his tie, and took his place by Eraserhead, and Deku, raising his fists. Dear friends, I apologize for not being here when I was needed. Please stand back and watch the number 1 hero in action. All Might took in the situation before him, Shigaraki, and Kurojairi, with another, unknown big guy who didn't look quite alive. Shoyuta Aizawa was breathing harshly, and through his goggles he could see his eyes red, and bloodshot from quirk overuse. His elbow was injured, and bleeding heavily. He needed to get to a hospital, and Midoriya, the sight of one of his favorite students with a dismembered limb, and stains of golden blood on his gym uniform sent earthquakes of rage and remorse through him. His failure to have his priorities in check is the reason why this had happened. That arm was his failure. His expression of valor he displayed in the combat exercise was all but gone. He looked afraid now. However, his golden irises shone through to him, and they showed him to still possess hope. Hope in him. All Might, that thing, it's as strong as you are. They made it to fight you. And your I mean. My time limit, Midoriya? You really don't just think about yourself, do you? To think the soul most worthy of one for all will never hold its power. All Might gave him a thumbs up, and rejected his rage, choosing to smile instead. He couldn't lose control, no matter how angry he was at such scum for hurting his students. He had to act like a hero, not a vigilante. He had to set an example to his students. Thanks for the advice, young man. Now please get to safety. I have a feeling this is going to get messy. Midoriya nodded, and ran to the stairs with Aizawa, making it halfway up before he heard a massive impact and a rush of wind. Turning around, he saw the raw devastation unleashed by the titans of good and evil. The ground itself broke before their blows, trees uprooted and flew, as if they were tossed by tornadoes. Izuku stood and watched, fully captivated by the raw power emanating from his hero. He had a feeling he was going to be rewatching this particular memory until his dying day. I am the world's symbol of peace and justice, and I will show you what these words truly mean. Geo Beyond Plus Ultra. With that last, glorious phrase, the Nomu was forcibly removed from USJ out of a massive hole in the ceiling that definitely was not there before. All Might had prevailed over evil once again, and secured USJ. Next to Izuku, Aizawa gasped, and closed his eyes, blinking repeatedly, and cursing under his breath from extreme pain. How long has he been erasing his quirk? Aizawa-sensei. At the epicenter of the battle, All Might stood tall, glaring at the remaining villains. He wasn't moving, but he wasn't steaming either. It was only dust. He must be trying to keep that from in place. Izuku did not need enhanced hearing to get a grasp on Shigaraki's emotional state, as he screamed out at the sky. God damn it, you were supposed to be weaker, but you haven't lost a damn step. Shock absorption, super regeneration, a modified genetic makeup, he was perfect. You beat him, as if he had nothing. you filthy trash of society. I'll fucking ki. Shigaraki, this has been a crushing defeat, but we still have our lives and our freedom. If you go for him, I cannot guarantee our escape, warned Kurojiri. An uncomfortable silence filled the battlefield as Shigaraki took in the information. He started scratching at his neck violently, shivering, and muttering under his breath. As he did, All Might, symbol of peace. We were clearly underprepared for this final boss encounter, but next time, we will kill you. I will see your corpse before me, and IWI. Crack! From the entrance to USJ, a gunshot rang, then a few more, from the Western hero, Snipe. The bullets found their mark in Shigaraki, embedding themselves in his arms and legs before Kurojiri escaped through his warp gate, dragging the man-child along with him. The pro-heroes, Kirishima. Izuku recognized the voice at the top of the steps, and remembered just how the last of his classmates saw him before he was warped away. He rushed up the stairs with newfound determination coursing through his artificial veins. Mina probably thinks I'm dead. When he reached the top, he was happy to find out that 13 was, and all of his classmates were alive. Unfortunately, that also meant Kaken, who was stomping towards him at an increasingly fast pace. Fucking stupid-ass motherfucker, who the hell do you think you are? Damn near screamed his friend rival. This, of course, gained the attention of all the students, as well as some pro-heroes. Hi Kaken? Meekly tried Izuku. Don't fucking hi Kaken me. Your dumbass almost got killed while you were on that being a hero bullshit. I could have kicked his ass, your girlfriend could have threw some lethal shit at EM. But I know, you're stupid, I can't let anyone get hurt. Kaken ass decided to get your fucking arm cut off just so you could save them. Wow, I don't think he's ever cared about me this much before. Well, it worked, didn't it? Ida got out, and got All Might, and the pros over here. Katsuki Bakugo simply huffed, and punched him in the shoulder that still had a full arm, knowing well that it would have hurt himself more than it would Izuku. Mina approached him, unsure of what to say. Really, what was there to say? Oh hello Izu, glad you didn't die for the second time today. Could you maybe stop almost dying? It kind of freaks me out, and makes me so scared I can't think properly without your stupid puppy dog face popping in every 5 seconds. Thanks. Feeling too emotionally strained to be witty in any way, she just wrapped her arms around him, and sighed, remembering the tears that shamelessly flew out when he was taken from her. Them. Us. He was taken from us. Ugh. Izuku returned the hug without hesitation, doing his best to ignore the fact the hug wasn't quite complete without a certain limb of his. She massaged her fingers through his hair, and sighed into his shoulder. Was she really this worried? I'm so sorry Mina. Don't be, you're a real hero. You were always my hero since the entrance exam, but now the class sees you the same way. At least, they are better. I'm not mad at you Izuku. I just wish you didn't have to get hurt to keep us safe. That's a really bad habit of yours. Will the arm grow back? Shit. If my face can grow back after being turned into goo, I should be able to grow my arm back. Ah, great. She's still upset. What do I say to her? This is all so new to me. What would All Might do? Izuku remembered his very first sight of the hero, from before his quirk manifested. All Might saving hundreds from that disaster, his signature smile proudly displayed. He would make her smile. Well, I gotta hand it to you, Mina. You sure know how to make someone feel appreciated. Mina raised an eyebrow. Did he just? Man, no wonder me comedy act never took off. Mina felt light all of a sudden. Was he really making puns about this? Like that one? Guess it's a wrap then. Izu stop. Mina couldn't help but smile at his genuine attempt at comedy. For a robot he had a pretty decent delivery. Time for the grand finale. What if I don't stop? Will everything still be All Might? Finished Izuku, while also molding his face into his best All Might impression which he had been practicing in secret for years. Oh my god Izuku, what's with that face? What started as a slightly amusing joke turned into full-on laughter, and Izuku couldn't possibly be more proud of himself for making her smile. That beautiful, adorable smile that made him want to hold her close. And, I'm still holding her close. Mina felt Izuku's frame stiffen considerably in her arms, and judging from the violent shades of red on him, he just now realized how close he was being with her. Normally she would have found this situation funny, and maybe would have broken some boundaries to mess with him a little. But this time, something had changed. She could feel it. Their relationship wasn't quite the same anymore. What started as fun teasing turned into something more, something noticeable. Their grip on each other wasn't something done out of necessity anymore. They were both choosing to touch each other. She was doing this because it felt good. I like him. I have legit feelings for you, Izu. Coming to terms with herself, she tightened her grip on Izuku Midoriya, and looked directly at him, despite the heavy blush now accommodating both of their faces, and gave him a signature prize-winning Ashido smile. She was pleased to feel him relax his stiff grip, while still keeping firm, and smiled at her back. This is good. After USJ, all the students were to be taken to Recovery Girls' Infirmary before being questioned by police. To think villains would directly strike at the #1 hero's school chilled her to the bone. From early reports, only one student received serious injuries. So long. As it isn't that troublesome Midoriya, I should be able to stabilize them. Enter Midoriya and company. Fuck. Supported unnecessarily, it looked like, by Bakugo and Ida. With Ishido alongside them, the injury-prone student walked into her infirmary, with a grizzly wound to his right arm, which was all but removed at the elbow. The mentioned student shuffled uneasily, showing signs of social anxiety, not excruciating pain. Recovery girl-san, boy, just sit down. I think we both know there's not much I can do about this, but, as official nurse of Yui, I must formally examine you before I can let you loose to fulfill your urge for injury again. Understand? Please stay still. Am I correct in assuming there are no other major injuries? Correct. No other students received injuries greater than a scrape. Shizenji-san, confirmed Ida. Good. I suppose it's fortunate that an injury this severe happened to someone as durable as Midoriya. That being said, Midoriya likely only received this injury because he would willingly place himself in dangerous situations. Your quirk grants you a particularly high pain tolerance. How much pain can you feel? It's all numb. I can't feel anything past my shoulder. No wonder he hurts himself so much. He likely hasn't felt immense, prolonged pain since before his quirk developed fully. Rules out masochism, meaning his natural, relatively healthy mind simply disregards the dangers in favor of doing what it believes is right. Reminds me of a certain someone. This is an extremely clean cut. I doubt this was done by some knife-wielding maniac, especially through such dense material. How were you injured? The boy grimaced. A natural response. A villain named Kurojiri used his warp gate quirk to get those villains into and out of USJ. He closed the gate that my arm was in, and I don't know where it is. I'll make sure you're informed if it's found. Teleportation quirks are very rare, yet the villains would risk their main utility by having him participate in combat. Hard to believe they attacked just to hurt some children. After finishing her examination of Midoriya and putting everything in fine print, Recovery Girl turned him over to the police, knowing full well another certain individual with a knack for hurting himself would be in for a checkup. As well, the no longer youthful heroine prepared herself some tea. Directly after the infamous USJ incident, the city of Muzutafu erupted in a roar of doubt, worry, and shame. The greatest hero academy in Japan successfully attacked before the week's end. It was rumored that students received injuries, with one unlucky student in particular losing part of their body to the villains. That very same student was escorted home by police personnel after an examination by Recovery Girl, and questioning by school staff and police. That's to say, he got home very late. Steeling his nerves and preparing himself, he opened the door to greet his mother. Mom, please don't freak out. It's okay. Izuku, what the fuck happened to your arm? Did she just? She never does that. Immediately recoiling in shock, Inko Midoriya collapsed to the floor, and cried, and cried, and cried, and cried, and just when she felt done crying, she cried once more for good measure. One of her nightmares had come true, yet to come true so soon was horrible. Her baby boy was attacked by villains, and missing half his arm. Izuku how? Seeing his own mother break down like this was heartbreaking for the boy. While she was known for losing her composure, and being worrisome, this broke the limits of everything he'd seen so far. His heart became submerged in a guilty substance, and it was golden. Have you heard about the attack at USJ, right? My class was there, and I didn't want anyone to get hurt. I couldn't let them separate us like they planned, because if they were able to do that while I was there, when I could have done something, how would I ever be a hero? Izuku's voice broke near the end. He had never seriously considered how his mother would be affected by the dangers of his job, always wondering if her boy was going to get himself killed one day. Never before had he just wished for a day to end as badly as he did now. The idea of sleep and unconsciousness appealed to him far more than it had before. I love you, Izuku. I know you want to be a hero more than anything in the world. I just want you to be happy. But you have to stay alive too. I will, Mom, I promise. Izuku hugged his mother, stayed up a bit with her, and helped her with dishes that day, 2 arms or no. Izuku woke up the next day, unpleasantly unsurprised to find himself completely refreshed and full of energy. Yui was cancelled that day, in favor of an official investigation by staff and police into the USJ incident. Internet speculation ran rampant, with hundreds of articles theorizing the villain's goal. It amused Izuku to see how inaccurate their guesses were, though it was hardly surprising. Breaking into a school full of heroes to kill the most powerful hero? It was outlandish and plain stupid. No one would ever guess that's how it really went down. After laying in bed for another hour on his phone, Izuku got up. I feel like a train wreck, but my body feels like it could wreck that train. Does that even make sense? Ugh. Sometimes the atmosphere doesn't match the scene. Something he took notice of, however, was that his injured arm grew back about 4 inches, the metallic appendage having glossed over the open end of the wound. That's good. This is great. Almost nobody grows their arms back. Don't be selfish, it's great. Izuku, you have a visitor, his mother called to him from the kitchen. Oh, must be Kaken. Weird, he usually sends some angry texts before coming over to drag me to training. Deciding to stay in his All Might pajamas, Izuku figured he could use a break today given his condition. Kaken would probably understand, right? Probably not. When he opened his bedroom door, he saw something very unexpected. Ida? In the flesh? Tenya Ida awaited him outside his door, wearing semi-formal blue clothing that could only be described as dad's playing golf, and started performing his erratic hand gestures. Good morning, Midoriya-san. With the absence of both class representative and deputy assistant, I have taken it upon myself to accompany Bakugo, Ashido, Uraraka, Hagakure, and Kirishima in their journey to your home. I must say, I did not expect humble beginnings from such a promising fellow student, but if anything, it is a testament to your willpower and intelligence to push through regardless. Oh, I like him. Izuku's mother chuckled at the sheer finesse Ida displayed in acknowledging their financial situation. In the living room, there sat all those Ida mentioned, with tea in their hand, and smiles on their faces. At least, mostly. He couldn't really tell if Hagakure smiled or not. Izuku remembered his failed attempt to sneak up on Shigaraki. Hagakure, she could probably give me some tips on moving around quietly without my boots. Nice PJS you. Mina spoke up a little louder than she needed to, earning her best friend some, and hoots from the crowd. Izuku Midoriya smiled silently to herself, hoping she remembered to apologize to her son later for the embarrassment. Izuku's face reddened yet again, as he ran back into his room, taking the All Might themed nameplate off the door before he did. They're here. How did they get here? Only Kaken knows where I live, and he wouldn't go telling people for fun. Unless, of course, the person who asked him was close to Izuku, persistent to a fault, vaguely knew Bakugo, and was socially competent enough to convince like-minded others to join her. Obvious. Mina, you're too nice. No, really. After a lengthy session of undressing and redressing himself, Izuku Midoriya left his room wearing socks, jeans, and an All Might t-shirt. He was surprised to see his mother conversing with the students, talking about him. He never talked to Izuku since. It's a shame they split apart because of something out of his control, and when he was 7, he grew those knives out of his arms, scared me half to death. Oh, you know what? I think I have some pictures off his pre-quirk days. I'll try and find them. Mom. The crowd turned towards Izuku. Some of them had clearly just finished laughing, while the rest simply smirked at him, eager to tease. Inko grinned mischievously, and got off the couch, going to the kitchen to wash some dishes. So you're a fan of All Might, huh? Questioned Kirishima, his sharp teeth shining brightly when he spoke. Well, a little bit, sheepishly responding to the fanboy. I think it was more than a little bit, Midoriya-kun, Hagakure teased. It is, confirmed Bakugo. You should see his room, guiltlessly calling out Inko. Izuku, I love you, but you really do have to make more friends. Ever since you and Shinso stopped talking. Onward to Midoriya's room, enthusiastically called out Uraraka, as the crowd got up and marched to Izuku's doom. The boy panicked and barricaded the door with himself, making sure to center his body over the doorknob and cover the rest with his fully remaining left arm. You don't want to go in there, there's nanobugs inside. Bakugo scoffed, while Ida furrowed his brow. Nanobugs, Midoriya? Yeah? It's what happens when someone who has a mechanical type quirk has lice. That won't infect you, but they will bite hard. Interesting. I've never heard of such a thing. I must thank you for protecting your fellow. He's full of shit. Deku, let me see your geek-ass room already. No, guys, it's kinda embarrassing. Surprised at the outburst, as well as taking note of his legitimate discomfort, Kirishima and Ida backed away from the door. Uraraka did the same, but the remaining girls were undeterred. Mina and Hagakure grabbed Izuku's left arm, pulling as hard as they could to try and budge him. Come on, Izu, it's not that bad. I'm a hero nerd too, you know. Let us in, let us in, let us in. Good fooer. Good luck trying to budge him. The damn wall will break before you tear him away. Struggling in vain, Hagakure gave up and backed off, panting and reclaiming her breath. Mina stayed and put her hands on Izuku's mechanical bicep, leaning in close so only he could hear. You know I could probably tickle you into defeat, but I don't want to embarrass you or anything. How about you show me what it looks like later? Just us two, okay? Izuku nodded, knowing this was probably the best deal he was going to get out of her, as well as wanting some personal space back. Her face was so close, and the faint aroma of strawberries gently caressed his senses. Wait, since when did she smell like strawberries? Once he was assured he gained victory over his privacy, Izuku relented his guard and joined the others on the couch, sitting on the farthest end he could. Mina made sure she was last to sit down, claiming the spot next to him. Amidst the chaos and embarrassment, there was a very crucial question that needed to be asked that he had previously neglected. Hey guys, not that I don't mind your company, but why are you here? Also how? Well, I was worried about you, Izu. Losing an arm is kinda a big deal. Thing is, these guys were worried too. They asked me where you lived, but I didn't know, and I couldn't ask you cause the police got their hands on you. So I asked him where you lived, and he told me to, well, you could probably guess what he told me to do. But then the rest of us started asking too, so he finally gave up, but said he was coming with. He didn't say why though. Oh, well, that's actually really nice of you guys, thanks. Sorry, there's not really much to do here, but Izuku stuck out his injured right arm the best he could, tracing his thumb over the end of it. My arm will grow back eventually. It grew about 4 inches overnight, but soon I'll have the entire thing back. Dang, does that mean you can grow back anything? Asked Kirishima. I'd rather not find out, to be honest. Uraraka listened intently. If his arm can grow back, does that mean the old one still works? If it still works, that means it would probably sell for a lot. There have been times where quirk body parts can be successfully transplanted, so if he lost another arm, Uraraka paled in fear of herself. What the hell is wrong with me? He sacrificed fighting an evil smoke monster, and I'm thinking about money? Inko finished up the kitchen cleaning, and looked at the couch, overflowing with children, laughter, questions, and conversation. The best part of it all, her little boy was participating in all of it. This tea is exemplary, complimented Ida when he took notice of her. Why, thank you. My dear Izuku finally has a group of friends. I'm so proud of him. He has good judgment with people, especially that tall one. So many girls too though, if I had to guess. She fixed her gaze at Ashido, though Mina was the name she heard more often than not from her boy's own lips. Pink skin, eyes like Izuku's, and horns. Who knew her child would grow up to be so deviant? She appeared to be very social, as well, with high bursts of energy that simply refused to let the conversation die, switching from one topic to the next. They contrasted each other in nearly every way, only sharing eyes, yet somehow, it worked. She wasn't just making him talk to her, she was making him talk to everyone. Hey guys, wanna play some video games at my house? Offered Ashido. Sounds like a good time. You better not be one of those play for fun types. I've never played, to be honest. I've played a little before. Mom, is that okay? His mother gave her sweetest smile. Of course, dear. Be back by 8. Yeah, let's go. The teens left the Midoriya household and followed Ashido's lead, who happily hummed to an upbeat rhythm as they walked down the sun-scorched sidewalks. Some passers-by glanced at the unusual group of a pink girl with horns, a floating pair of clothes, an extremely young father with engine legs, a robot amputee, and 2 normal teens. Yet the group paid them no mind, happily engaged in their own activities. I can probably guess why All Might's your favorite, Midoriya bro. How so? He's probably gonna say how strong he is or something, being that he's friends with Kaken. Cause he's manly as hell, called it. I don't mean strong though, I figured that you're pretty strong, but from what you showed everyone that you know, USJ, is that you're the kind of person always willing to help people out, even if it might get you killed. Just like All Might, you've got that hero attitude engraved in your brain or something. To me, that's pretty manly. Whoa. Mina turned around, walking backwards with surprising control. That's so true. You guys already saw the video of the entrance exam I showed you. Aiza here didn't even hesitate to save me from that giant robot. He should have been racking up more points, but he went after me instead. Mina reached out and poked Izuku's chest, firmly pressing her finger over his heart, or rather, its replacement organ. My knight of shining armor, you've got more heart than any normal human I've met. Happily embarrassed by Kirishima and Ashido, Izuku just smiled and covered his face, nearly crying from the sheer influx of pride and happiness he felt. I think it's fucking weird how he doesn't blink. Damn it, Kaken, I was having a moment. Oh my god, same? I do not ever recall seeing Midoriya blink, now that I think about it. I guess a robot wouldn't really need to blink. Mina and Izuku just sighed at the spoiled moment, but even the sigh was interrupted by a man in a dark hoodie colliding into Mina, knocking her over onto the sidewalk. Oh my. His voice was smooth, but gravelly, as well, as though he was sick with something. I apologize for bumping into you. I was not paying proper attention, as I should have. Something about him did not sit right with Izuku. He was pretty clothed for the heat, and his face was mostly obscured. The man offered his hand to Mina, which she hesitantly took, and allowed herself to be pulled up with almost no effort. Oh, it's okay, really. I was the one walking backwards, huh? The hooded man only nodded his head, before directing his attention to Izuku. Young man, may I ask how you received that injury? Izuku tensed under the stranger's question, but chose to answer it before Kaken started a fight. I don't see how that's any of your god. I received it during the attack at USJ. He valiantly sacrificed himself for us, and succeeded in preventing any major injuries. You see, we were all involved in USJ, concluded Ida. The man paused, and thought it over before replying. I see, you have the makings of a real hero. Villains with so little purpose, such as to break into Yui just to strike down kids, disgust me. Thank you for answering my question. Goodbye. The man walked past them, before rounding a corner. He seems, yeah, You shouldn't have told him shit for eyes. Perhaps you're correct. Are you alright, Mina? Mina offered a reluctant smile. Oh, it's fine, Izu, let's keep going. Creepy guy or no, he seemed alright. Izuku allowed himself to relax. Yeah, I guess so. Upon reaching the Ashido household, Izuku was blown away at how big it was. It was a legitimate house, with multiple front-facing windows, and everything. She looked down at her phone, deftly scrolling through menus and interfaces before acknowledging a single text for a tenth of a second, and putting it away. Alright, ahem, we are here. The door should be open. Opening the door, Mina casually strolled in, with Hagakure doing the same. Kirishima and Ida entered with more caution, taking a moment to observe their surroundings. Uraraka seemed awestruck by the house like Izuku, her expression remaining as she went in. Bakugo simply waited for his training partner to go in first. I'm about to go into a girl's house. No, it's not like that. It's just Mina, and we're here to play some friendly matches of whatever she has. Walking through the doorway, Izuku was assaulted by a wave of discordant noise, categorized by many loud and overlapping voices, causing his internals to track them all subconsciously, much to the displeasure of Izuku. He followed Uraraka in the hopes that they were going away from the chaos of it all. Mina, who are these new guys? Commanded a booming, friendly, and male voice. Just friends from school. Remember when I said I'd visit Midoriya's place with the others to check on him? We're gonna play some video games. Alright, see why, responded who may have been her father. At least I know where she gets it from. Hey Mina, is that your dad? Yeah, that's my dad, don't worry about him. Dude's built like All Might, and yells just as loud, but he's a total softie. Come on, my room is just up here. Going up a set of stairs, and taking a right, the UE students found themselves in front of a door, with a Mina-style nameplate on it. Opening the door, and lazily sprawling out on her bed, Mina introduced them. Welcome to Maison de Mina. Pretty cute, huh? Mina's room was, if it could be described simply, lively. However, it can't be described simply, at least not in Izuku's opinion. The overload of stuff and colors required his mind to take its time in absorbing all the information in. Her bed, pillows, even walls, were adorned in a black and hot pink pattern with similar style to her hero costume, with the difference of it being more snaky, as opposed to splotchy. Other details stood out too, like the pillows covered in hot pink hearts, stuffed animals on the bed, and on her dresser, and a coat rack covered in various outfits. Nearly every surface was covered in pink, or black fuzzy material. It was clear what Mina's favorite colors were. The room reminded Izuku of one inescapable fact. Mina is a girl, a very feminine one at that. Wow, Ashido-kun, I can tell it's yours just from looking at it, possibly complimenting Uraraka. That's the idea. I did not imagine you to be the studious kind of individual. Yet you have a surprising number of books in those bookcases, also possibly complimenting Ida. Studies, right? Nice poster, bluntly, but clearly complimented Kaken, who gestured to an alien poster on the wall. Oh yeah, those old movies are my favorite franchise, excitedly squealed Mina, as she dug under her blankets, and pulled out an alien plushie, tossing it over to Izuku. What do you think of my room? Izuku Small Might Midoriya. Izuku blushed again, hiding his face with the alien plushie, as he did so. The students gave a hearty chuckle at the teasing. Ugh, she told you about that? Your mom's a really cool bro, but she told us a lot of things. Sorry. Kirishima figured the poor dude was about to overheat with the sheer amount of embarrassment he'd gone through today. Come on, answer the question. I think it really represents you, like Uraraka said, but it's so full of life and color. It's like over time your positive and upbeat energy kinda seeped into it and made it your own. Does that make sense? Mina smiled at the boy's generous, although admittedly poorly phrased compliment. Only a little, but I love the way you said it. Alright, let's play something. Mina jumped up from her bed and turned on the TV in her room, picking up 4 controllers as she did so, and tossing them on the bed. She began gliding through her bookcase, one section of which filled to the brim with video games. Alright, I got Nintendo Racing, Pro Hero Smash, Immortal Conflict. As Mina continued on, Izuku and his new friends came to a chilling realization in their own ways, picking up the controllers. How is Midoriya going to play? And there's also Mineshaft, but to be honest I have a feeling Exploderson won't enjoy it. So, what's your pick? Ida decided to break the news. There's a bigger problem than fucking mines. Excuse me, Ashido-san, but there is a significant problem that has not been accounted for. You see, Midoriya does not have both hands available to use the controller. If Mina could pale, she would've. Fuck. How am I so stupid? Of course he can't play video games, I know. I can fix this. Somehow. I am so sorry. And Mina, it's fine, really. I hardly ever play video games, and I'm happy just watching so. No, sorry that was loud. I mean, let's just share a controller, that could work, right? How does Pro Hero Smash sound? HMPF. I'm good at that. I shall sit out in favor of letting someone else play. I have little experience in this field, I admit. Let's go, Ashido-kun. Putting the game on, and starting it up, Mina took her seat on the bed next to Izuku, sitting on his right to ensure he could fully use his left arm. The other three playing were Kirishima, Bakugo, and Hagakure. Mina already knew she wasn't going to win against Hagakure, but part of her was worried on how Bakugo would react to losing because he definitely wasn't going to beat her. Setting up a match by herself, Mina then draped her left arm over Izuku, much to his surprise, and scooted closer, her warm thigh brushing up against his. She began to explain the basics of the game, and his role, as the left side of the controller, movement, and such, while the right side controlled attacks and advanced techniques. They were brought up to the character selection screen. Izuku's eyes immediately found All Might amongst the vast array of pro heroes. I bet I know who you want to pick, Izu. Sorry, I don't mean to obligate you or anything. Nah, it's fine. I like playing with him, even if he is a little off meta at the moment. Bakugo picked Vlad King, no surprise there. Kirishima picked Crimson Riot, maining him purely because he was his favorite in real life. And Hagakure. Mina sighed. Why do you always have to pick Edge Shot? This is supposed to be a friendly game, Toru. Alright, ready? Yeah, they were not ready. Immediately Hagakure and Bakugo cleaned the house, mopping the floor with the soaps that were Mina, Izuku, and Kirishima. Showing a massive gap in skill level and reaction speed, the two professionals faced off against each other with deadly calm. Suddenly, the session of friendly video games became less casual. Geez, Kaken, how are you so good? I didn't even know you played this. My old hag was worried I couldn't ever relax, and that I was too obsessed with training, so she bought me this when I was 9. Turns out, it's a decent test of reflexes. That honestly makes a lot of sense. No one else can react on par with me like he can. If only I had both hands. What about you, Hagakure-san? How long have you played this? A year later, she responded simply, too focused on the game to go further in detail. What? How in the fuck are you keeping up with me in just a year? I dunno, I'm just really good. That's what Ishido says. That's amazing, complimented Uraraka. Just 1 year? She looks like she could keep up with pro players. How is? Izuku examined her playstyle a little closer and noticed something crucial. She prefers to remain on the offensive, using elaborately guided movement to bait out Kaken's defenses and leave him vulnerable. Yet she doesn't react as fast as he does whenever he is on the offense, choosing to retreat instead of block or parry. Hold on. Hey, Hagakure-san, can you see your own body? Nope, that's it. She's able to pull off that kind of movement because she has perfect hand and finger dexterity. Like me, she never had the luxury of knowing where her own hands and body parts are, so she's had to have developed super awareness and control of her own body to survive. As a child, that kind of control translates to video games perfectly, as she can push or pull the analog sticks and buttons with the exact amount of pressure required. No wonder she's so hard to hear. Izu, did you really pick up all that just from watching her play? Mina whispered in his ear. Damn it, I was mumbling again. Why yeah, that's amazing. I bet she didn't even know that. You're smart as hell, Izuku. I think that's why you're gonna be a great hero. You're really good at thinking. Another rush of endorphins and good feelings bubbled inside him. Just like before when they were walking to her house, and when she got very close to him while he was barricading his own door, taking great care not to say his thoughts aloud. Izuku sighed. You make me feel happy. Hey Mina, HM, thank you for checking up on me today, and not barging in my room, and sharing a controller with me just so I can be involved, and thanks for everything. You made this day fun. You're a great person. Mina smiled at him, and gave him a hug, eager to hide the violet flush spreading through her cheeks, while also just wanting to hug him for saying such kind things. Is just a compliment all that's needed now? God. Eventually, Hagakure won, much to the dismay of Bakugo, and Kirishima, Ida, and Uraraka were given multiple turns, as well, with Izuku trying to man the right side of the controller. He did better that time, but there wasn't much one could do with half a controller, and zero experience, perfect dexterity or no. It didn't matter. All that mattered was that he was at a friend's house, with a group of friends, all having fun, and that couldn't have been bad to him, win or lose. When Izuku Midoriya went home that day, he wished only to stay awake, and daydream about the future he would have with his friends. In a place unknown to the conscience of Izuku, a great, an ancient evil thought to itself, before being intruded upon. A gaseous, shadowy substance materialized in his dark room, with an equally shadow-like man stepping through. Kurojairi spoke. Sensei, I have discovered something of importance. The ancient evil spoke, his tone calm, but radiating immense power, like a supposedly disarmed nuclear weapon. Kurojairi, it has been some time since you personally visited. This must be important. Kurojairi unwrapped a cloth he carried, revealing one half of a robotic arm. It is from the USJ incident. It belonged to a student who caused great disruption of the plan. Izuku Midoriya. He nodded. Correct. It is my belief that this could benefit us in some way. Great minds think alike. Ah, of course. What did you have in mind? The ancient evil thought only for a moment before responding. The answer to their problems had been in plain sight, yet he never paused to consider it before now. It amused him greatly. He had experimented using genetic modification and quirk assignment, but what if that was not his only option? Kurojiri did not see it, but the ancient evil grinned. Noma, thanks for watching my video, and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic. Link is in the description. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.